Paulding County, it's very small. Everybody knows everybody. Didn't have to worry about anything bad happening to you.
Heidi was very well known in the local area because of her family and their wedding or catering business, especially with small towns. I feel like everybody knew Heidi Grant, or the Grant family name at least.
With Heidi, I took pride in planning weddings and making sure everybody's special day was just right for them. It was her family business, so it was more than a job to her.
Me and Heidi were good friends. We chatted a lot. We planned get-togethers. She was a very likable, funny person.
We liked to go shopping and listen to music together. She was also there for me, like friends. We were really close.
Her ex-husband and her have 2 children. She has a boy and a girl, but they did not live with her. They live with their dad.
Chris had a crush on her in high school. As they graduated, they both went their separate ways, and then they reconnected later on Facebook. Chris and Heidi, they were both divorced, and I think that they had a lot in common as far as that goes.
It was definitely a little weird seeing my dad with someone else, but I really grew to like her. It was a really good friendship, but also they were in love too. When my parents got divorced, I stayed with my mom for a week, and then I would go to my dad's and Heidi's for a week. Heidi and I, we did a lot together. She took me to school every day. We were really close, like friends. Heidi was a very big factor in my softball career too. She was at every single game.
Chris went to AA meetings 2-3 times a week, and Heidi was very supportive of him getting help and staying sober. It was definitely a struggle for Chris. He would get a handle on it, and then something happened, stress or even happiness, excitement, and it would trigger him.
Chris was very open with Heidi about his struggles with alcohol. I think that she thought she could really help him through it and keep him sober. Chris stopped over one day and he said that he was going to ask Heidi to marry him.
Chris seemed very excited. He couldn't wait to propose. Things were falling into place for Chris and Heidi and Olivia.
Chris and Heidi got married at Grant's Catering Hall. We were all supposed to be there, but COVID had hit and we weren't able to gather for that day.
It was just my dad, Heidi, me, and then Heidi's dad. I was glad to be able to witness it. They seemed very happy. It looked like it was going to be very bright in the future.
Shortly after Chris and Heidi got married, they decided to move back to Antwerp, which was closer to the catering business. They found a nice little house right in the center of town.
Chris took medications, help him with his drinking. He took a pill, which if he chose to drink, it would make him really sick. And the pill was very effective for Chris.
He was in a really good point in his life. He was really happy. He stopped taking his medication because he felt happy. He felt like he could handle life, That was the wrong thing. He should have kept taking them.
When Chris and Heidi found this house in Antwerp and they were in the process of moving, Chris started drinking again.
When my mom passed away in August of 2021, it affected us a lot. It affected Chris really bad.
We were all very worried that Chris was drinking again. having to lose his mom in life was probably the worst thing he'd ever experienced as far as loss and pain. That's what set off, the spiral, I believe, to his drinking again. When Chris would drink, he'd start out as fun-loving and easygoing, and if he got really drunk, then it was argumentative. This time, when Chris started drinking, it was pretty out of control.
When I went to work one morning, Heidi showed up and she asked me if I could help them move. Basically, all they had left in Oakwood to move was the heavier stuff. She said Chris had been drinking. She didn't want him driving. And I told her, well, I can't really leave right now, but Dad and my older brother Dave are down at his house. I'm sure they would help you get the rest of your stuff out. So they went, hooked up my dad's trailer and took it over there. And just as they were leaving the house, Chris showed up. He was annoyed that my dad and my brother Dave was there to finish helping them move. They started arguing in the driveway, and Chris went to grab a hold of my brother Dave, and Dave grabbed a hold of him and took his legs out from underneath him and put him on the ground and said, I'm going to let you up and we'll leave and that'll be that.
When we got home from work, we found out that an altercation had happened, an argument, and Chris was drinking. Heidi and Chris, they were in an argument still. Heidi did not want to go home and deal with Chris drinking and arguing all night. So she was coming over to our house. When she showed up at her house, Heidi was angry is what she was. She said, I will never let a man destroy me or my family's name again. And she was very adamant about that. We're Paulding County area. It's all very small town. Gossip spreads like wildfire.
She was more worried about her family name than anything.
Heidi, she was always worried about what could happen if, say, the law was called or, she didn't want her business, her family's name dragged through the mud.
What's your emergency?
Get the out. Hello? Hey, man, my wife just tried to kill me. Get the out. Hello? Hey, man, my wife just tried to kill me.
On January 13th, 2022, a 911 call was made in reference to a domestic dispute that had occurred.
How'd you do that?
Hit me with a fucking... I was laying in my chair, she fucking hit me across the head twice, man, and lit me up.
What'd she hit you with?
Table leg.
The caller was Christopher Franklin, and he reported that he had been hit in the head by his wife. The dispatcher contacted me, and I decided I should go to the residence and just see what was going on. The dispatcher didn't report it to me as an active domestic violence incident, which means that it was going on. It was something that had already occurred. Half the party had already left. When I arrived at the property, Heidi Grant come to the door and stepped out onto the porch to talk to me. She was surprised that I was there, and I told her that Christopher had called and alleged that, she had hit him. And then she proceeded to tell me that he had been up all night drinking and he was now sleeping. She told me that there had been, no acts of violence between neither one of them in the house, and she just suspected that he was intoxicated when he made the call. When I asked her if we should go inside and talk to Chris, she said, George, I'd really rather you not. If we wake him up, he's probably just going to become agitated. Then I'll have hell to pay. We had dealt with Christopher on many occasions. We did know that he suffered from alcoholism, and I believed what she was telling me, that he was probably in there passed out. She said if there was any issues or anything, she would be sure and call. And at that point, I left the house.
When I came to the house, my dad wasn't there. Heidi told me that he was at work. I packed my bag real quick, and then she took me to Indiana, and I was gonna come home Sunday night. When Heidi picked me up from the tournament, we came home. My dad's truck wasn't there. We watched TV in the living room that night, and she just kept saying, I wonder where your dad is, I wonder where your dad is. The next morning, Heidi told me that she found Dad's phone in the bedroom, and she said that one of his friends tried to call him, and that's how she found it.
When Chris would drink, he would get in his car and take off. And we were always concerned with driving, you know, and drinking and getting in an accident, not just hurting himself, but somebody else.
Heidi told me that she drove around looking for him. She said that she called local hospitals, local police stations, local bars. That Tuesday morning when I woke up, he still wasn't home, and that's when I really got concerned. Heidi took me looking for him, going around places that he would be. I asked Heidi if she called the police and to file a missing persons report, and she said that they couldn't do anything because he was an adult and that he could just leave on his own. That Thursday when I went back to my mom's house, I was more nervous that something bad happened to him. Something definitely didn't feel right. I was definitely really worried. My dad always wanted me to do my best. He always pushed me to do my best. He was a very big support in my softball. He would come practice with me. He would tell me what I was doing wrong and try to help me fix it. He was really funny, and he always had to crack a joke or make someone laugh. I told my mom more details about it and said that I was really worried. She then texted my uncle Dave about it and said Dad has been missing for this many days.
Heidi talked about Chris was struggling with suicide. She talked about this song that he sent to everybody on his friends list, like on Facebook or Messenger, and it was a suicide song.
Heidi said that Chris's vehicle was out at the catering business with the door open, the keys, his wallet, everything was left in the vehicle with tracks leading down to the river.
Made it sound like maybe he killed himself and, you know, jumped in the river. Dave, my brother-in-law, walked the river and the house over there for days looking for him because he thought that, you know, like maybe he had committed suicide over there.
Holding County Sheriff's Office.
Hello, my name is Dave Franklin.
My brother-in-law called Paulding County Sheriff's Department to report his brother Chris missing.
I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I need to make a silver alert. Apparently my brother's been gone since Sunday.
His workplace said that he hadn't been there that whole week. That's when Dave thought, you know, I need to call and file a missing persons report. We had to find out where he was at.
Okay, what's your brother's name?
Chris Franklin. His wife's name's Heidi Grant.
Okay, why hasn't she called?
I couldn't tell you.
I coach high school wrestling when I'm not working at the police department. I was at a wrestling tournament, and that's when I received a call from my officer telling me that he had a missing persons case and that it was Christopher Franklin. I asked the officer, you know, who was making the report, and he told me that it was Christopher Franklin's brother, Dave Franklin, and that Heidi had not. He had gathered a little bit more information, and some things that he told me seemed a little off to me. The officer told me that Heidi had found Christopher Franklin's truck at the place of business where she worked, and then also that she had found Christopher's cell phone underneath the bed. That's when I decided to head back to Antwerp and speak with Heidi Grant.
Hi, are you Heidi? Come on back, Heidi. Come on back. He's back here on the phone. Just have a seat over there. Thank you for coming out. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. My suspicions were starting to rise that, there was just definitely more to the story than him just going off somewhere.
Tell me where he's at. That's all I need to know. Just tell me where he's at. I have it, and this is such a nightmare. Okay, what's your husband's name? Chris. C-H-R-I-S Franklin.
My wife, Captain Clemens, is always usually right there with me, assisting me. So when I interviewed Heidi, she was in the room with me.
How long have you been married?
Since November 27th, only 2 months.
2 months.
I did know Heidi before this happened. I used to babysit her children when they were little. When you live in a small community, you know everybody. Everybody is everybody's neighbor or relative in this town.
Okay, when did you last see him, talk to him?
It was Sunday. I left at about 10.
The 16th.
So the last time that Heidi actually told us she had seen Chris would have been on that Sunday morning. She had gone to pick up Chris's daughter, Olivia, from a softball tournament.
I left, and before I left, I had asked him to come with me so I could make sure he stayed sober. And he's like, I don't feel like going there. And he's like, I'm going to try to go over to Oakwood and get more stuff. And I looked at him and I said, if you pick that bottle back up, don't come back until you're sober. And that was the last thing I said to him.
Heidi said that when she returned with Olivia, his truck was gone.
So I went in, I checked the house. He wasn't there. So I just assumed he was in Oakwood getting stuff, because that's what he said he was going to do.
The next morning, when Heidi got up, she said she drove to the Oakwood home thinking he'd probably crashed there from drinking, because she had told him not to come home if he was going to drink.
Heidi said she just drove around to different spots in an attempt to locate where Chris might be. And then at one point, Olivia even was with her.
We drove up and down. I don't remember what day it was, but we drove up and down.
Heidi indicated that a few days after Chris had been gone, she located his truck at the back of her business.
So what day did you find his truck at?
That was Tuesday. But I was shocked to see his truck sitting behind our warehouse, and I never even thought to look there. I just assumed he had his truck.
She said it was odd that she'd found the truck there. The door was a little bit ajar, keys on the ground. So she thought that was strange because he really loved his truck. Chris would have never left his truck.
Okay, now let's go to the 13th when I was there. 13th. What time did you come home in the morning?
There was a point in the interview where her demeanor totally changed.
Olivia had PT.
She started to become somewhat emotional. She seemed more agitated than anything.
I don't remember.
She was really struggling to find the answers to the questions I was asking her.
What time did he get up, you say Saturday?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
That's fine. So let's,
I get some confused when I keep going back and forth in time.
I could tell that, there was something there. There was something more than what she was telling me.
I want you to listen to me. I want you to really listen to me really good here. Okay? It's really important for you.
Okay.
You and I both know that you know where he's at, and I need you to tell me that.
I wanted Heidi to tell me the truth so that we could, locate Christopher.
You and I both know that you took his truck out there.
I did earlier in the week when he was drinking to keep him from...
Listen, I'm telling you, I need to know what happened to him.
I don't know, George. I don't.
Yes, you do. Listen to me. I want to help you. Listen. Yes, you do. No, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now listen to me.
I probably pleaded with Heidi additional 20 to 30 minutes, but she continued. She continued to stick with her story that she had no idea where he was.
I need to know where he's at. You and I both know you know where he's at, Heidi. I just need you to tell me. You and I both know you're not a bad person.
When Heidi made the statement, "I'm not a bad person," and became emotional, I felt that she knew more than what she was telling me.
Please, just tell me where he's at. His family's going to want to know. Just tell
I know.
Tell me where he's at.
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, she's done something to him.
Just tell me where he's at, Heidi.
This is such a nightmare.
I'm so sorry that you got to go through this. And I think he was probably somewhat mean to you. I think he yelled at you. I feel bad for you. I think it's horrible that women like you got to put up with things like that. But right now, Heidi, we got to start doing what's right for me, for you, for everybody, his family. We just need to know where he's at.
At one point, I think I threw out there, you know, if something has happened to him and you know where he is, we just need to find, you know, Chris. At that point, Heidi became emotional.
Heidi, you and I both know that you know where he is.
They will
Please,
hate me.
they won't hate you, Heidi.
I just really kind of pressed her and pleaded with her essentially to just tell me the truth.
Heidi, listen to me. We all make mistakes. Trust me. I made mistakes in my life. We've all made mistakes, Heidi. Things happen in life. Heidi,
But then finally she started opening up. She reiterated to me that Christopher's mind was gone because of the alcohol. He'd been acting strange.
His mind was gone. He didn't know who I was, and he was trying. I told you he was trying to see. He was swinging the bat at me. He was trying to hit me, and I kept dodging it. Oh God!
you're doing so good. You're doing good, Heidi. Just continue on, please. You're on such a. It's okay, Heidi. I believe you.
When Heidi finally started telling what we believed to be the truth, she did seem a little more emotional, a little more upset. But still, I'm thinking, is he alive? Is he hurt?
He was trying to kill me.
Okay.
He had totally flipped out on me.
Okay.
So I called my friend and I said, I need protection. And I was hoping when I went back that he would be okay.
I see. Just continue on. I know it's hard. Just
so I had a gun.
I understand.
It was just
I understand.
Heidi told me that she had a friend that had firearms. You know, that morning she called the friend and asked him if, you know, she could still get that gun.
At that point, I kind of knew something was really wrong here.
They're not gonna hate you, Heidi. Heidi, they know what kind of person he was. Everybody girl's gonna hate.
To find out the multitude of what she did, it was quite shocking to me as an officer.
We just need to know where he's at, Heidi. You and I both know that you know where he is. They're not gonna hate you, Heidi.
So in the morning of January 13th, Heidi tells us she entered her home and Chris was there, and she said he was kind of out of his mind.
He grabbed Libby's ball bat out of her bag and was like trying to swing it at me, so I just ran out the door.
When she left the home to go get the gun, Chris actually dialed 911 and said that his wife had beat him with a table leg.
Hello? You hit me across the head twice, man. Lit me up.
Heidi told me that she drove to a town nearby, retrieved the gun, and then returned back to Antwerp.
She alleges after she walked into the back door, her husband, Chris, gets up and he is completely out of his mind. He doesn't know who she is. He's flailing the bat. She's dodging him.
He just kept coming at me and I knew he was going to bash my head in. And I was just...
She said she's scared to death for her life, and she reaches in her pocket, grabs the gun.
I didn't know the safety was off.
Let's see.
And I was just trying to scare him, and it went off, and I hit him, and he fell over.
Hearing that from Heidi, I was almost winded. I would have never thought in a million years that this would even happen in our community.
I didn't want him to suffer.
I understand. He was suffering, so you shot him again.
She said the final shot, she stood over him as he laid on the floor, and she shot him the final time.
How many times do you think you shot him?
I don't.
Okay.
If you shoot somebody one time and you're in true fear, and she alleged he went backwards and fell down, he's no longer a threat at that point. She could have picked up the phone and dialed 911 and got him the help that he needed. She didn't have to eliminate his life.
Heidi was telling me that all of this had occurred the same day that I had arrived at the house.
When I was there, had you already killed him? He was already dead. Is that why you were so hesitant to let me in? Obviously.
Well, because he was laying there dead. And I knew you would arrest me right on the spot. And I was flipping the out.
That contradicted what I saw that day on the porch. There was no emotion from her whatsoever to indicate to me that she had just killed someone. Essentially, Christopher was just laying on the other side of the door, deceased. After she'd confessed to shooting Chris, it was really important that I, find out where Christopher's body was.
I wrapped him up in plastic, and I took him. I had to muscle him down to the basement, and I buried him under cement.
I see.
She laid Chris out flat up against a interior wall, then took cinder blocks and leveled them up like too high, and then got the cement.
Was there already cement down in the basement? Where did you get the cement
I
at?
bought it.
Like in bags, or where did you buy the cement at?
I paid cash for it at Menards. I've done mortar work before, and it was the only thing the ground's frozen. I didn't know what to do. I was freaking out. I'm not a murderer.
I understand.
She said it took her 2 or 3 separate trips to acquire enough cement to entomb him in the basement. And then she also said that she'd hid the firearm at a location in the basement.
The area where this occurred at, did you clean that area, or how did that happen? Just tell me how did you buy the material?
Blood on the carpet, so I rented a rug doctor. I paid cash for it.
Based off of Heidi's actions and what she told me, led me to believe, she's pretty cold. At the conclusion of that interview, she was charged with murder and transported to the Paulding jail.
I was floored. I couldn't believe that she had killed him and put him in the basement. And for her to do that to Chris and put our family through that, that's really terrible. That's not something a human being does to somebody.
Heidi was adamant that she had killed Chris out of self-defense. She'd claimed due to his illnesses, he's out of his mind, and she never wavered from that.
She said she had to shoot Chris because she was afraid that he was going to kill her. Had a jury believed that Heidi had acted in self-defense, she would be found not guilty.
We just couldn't stop at Heidi telling us that she had shot Chris out of self-defense. We had to continue to investigate. We knew she had been lying to us previous in the interview, and to get those details were so important to find out exactly what did happen in that home.
We obtained a search warrant for Heidi's house, as it's now a crime scene. The forensic agents went in to gather evidence in the upstairs where the crime occurred. The search for Chris's body took us to this concrete tomb. We were able to, dismantle the top of it because there was a piece of wood laying across it. And then that's where we realized that, the concrete was probably approximately maybe a foot deep with his body encased in it. She really did her due diligence with securing him in that and covering it up. You wouldn't have known there was a body there. Down in the basement, underneath the stairwell, were some shelves with boxes. The gun was retrieved from one of them boxes.
Chief Clemens was able to get footage of Heidi as she made multiple visits to gather different things to clean up that scene.
You can leave everything there, but I will need you. Okay.
Heidi appeared to be very jovial. You would not have known that she had just killed her husband that day.
Have you guys gotten any good reviews on those? Oh, yeah. People swear by those. Good.
Probably the most shocking thing for me of that footage was when she's at the counter and she has the rug doctor. She looks at the clerk and asks the clerk if they get good reviews on that piece of equipment. Couldn't believe that, her state of mind, she would ask that, knowing what she was about to do.
During the investigation, we had actually taken time to look at Heidi's Facebook, kind of see what's on there. We actually found that during the time that Chris would have been in the basement, she was selling items from her home. People were asked to come to her home to pick up those items.
These were definitely not the actions of a woman in distress. She was just going about her daily life, just normal as could be. This case created a high volume of video footage, surveillance footage, that we obtained from all different sources, but the main one was a business right next door to Heidi's home. When we were looking through the footage, just days after the incident, there's a clip where this red truck is present. Footage was too grainy to show a clear plate number. You could tell by the footage, he was a male, probably in his 40s or 50s, wore glasses.
He is seen in the video helping Heidi, bringing out a freezer, loading that into his red truck.
He places that freezer in his red truck and drives away with it.
So, of course, it's lots of questions in our mind. And so it was imperative to find out, who is this guy? What role does he play? Through our investigation, we were able to figure out who was in that red truck. His name was Neil Deemer.
I felt it was really important to speak with him and find out, what he knew, if he knew anything at all. He said that him and Heidi had developed a friendship several years back, and that they had always just stayed in contact off and on.
Neil was at the home with Heidi. He thought it was an ex-husband, but he was supposed to be helping, and he was a drunk. He wasn't going to help. While at the home, he was helping her move things around, and one thing was a non-working freezer that she needed rid of because it was just in the way. So Neil actually loaded that into his truck, and he disposed that at his workplace. Neil adamantly denied any knowledge of Chris being murdered in that home.
During the interview, I asked him if him and Heidi had an intimate relationship, and he indicated that they did.
So Neil indicated that before they moved the furniture and disposed of the freezer, that he and Heidi had actually had sex on the living room floor. Listening to Neil tell us that they had had sex right above where Chris was laying, I was absolutely shocked. I'm thinking, what kind of woman are we really dealing with?
I didn't believe this was self-defense for several reasons. Normal person, I would think, would act rationally in a self-defense situation, and she'd have called the police. And the fact that I was there that morning and he was dead on the other side of the door, that would have been her opportunity to tell me, that that's what occurred.
So we continued to investigate to make sure that we could prove this was an absolute murder and not a self-defense case like she was alleging.
It was important that if that did happen, would I find the evidence to prove that Heidi lied. During our search, we were informed that there was a possible witness that was an employee of the Pit Stop gas station that may have seen Chris the morning of the incident. The Pit Stop is probably less than a block away from where Chris's house is. When I spoke with the employee, she indicated that Chris had come in and purchased cigarettes. She said that his shirt was bloody. He had a knot or a black eye, and his face had blood on it. She had asked him if he needed help, and he told her that he was okay and that he'd already called the police.
Hello? Man, my wife should try to kill me.
Based on the 911 records, we was able to determine that Chris must have went to the gas station minutes after making the 911 call. This eyewitness account was very crucial in determining the fact that he had been assaulted by Heidi, and without that witness, we wouldn't know whether or not that truly did happen.
So talking to the gas station attendant really turned things around for us. We knew Heidi wasn't the victim she was alleging she was.
Heidi never wavered from that this was self-defense. But I believe the evidence shows that Heidi Grant contemplated murdering her husband. I think she was tired of the alcoholism. I think she was worried about her reputation in our community. I think when she arrived home in the morning, she struck him with either a ball bat or a table leg. He makes the 911 call.
Hey, my wife should try to kill me.
She then left to get the gun. He obviously left and went to the gas station, purchased some items, returned back home. She returns and then shoots him. She shot him 10 times.
That just screams volumes to me of the hate and the rage she must have had for her husband.
She made mention that it was really difficult for her to get him down to the basement all by herself. She has to drag him over to there. When she got him to the top of the stairs, she just shoved him like a sled. She gets him to the bottom of the stairs, and then she has to drag him up where she was going to bury him, and then encased him in a tomb in the basement. As far as the motive, my speculation is she just felt that being in this small community, living with an alcoholic, she didn't want that type of image, and she basically removed Chris from her life, and it wouldn't hurt her family's business.
It's absolutely heartbreaking that the life of a human wasn't as important as her reputation in our small village.
Conclusion of collecting all of the evidence, Heidi was charged and indicted by a county grand jury with aggravated murder. Heidi pled not guilty and was sticking to the story of self-defense. Heidi took the stand during the trial, which is very uncommon for a defendant. She was pleading her case of self-defense to the jury.
There's a lot riding on her testimony. If they truly believed in their mind that she was a victim of this domestic situation, she could walk away. And then there would be no justice for Chris and his loved ones.
I was very confident in the fact that we would get a conviction, but you never know what a jury may or may not believe.
Once the jury came back with a decision, of course you heard weeping from the family that loved Chris, gasps from the family that loved her, and she sat motionless and said nothing.
Heidi Grant's sentence was 15 to life for murder. She got a mandatory 1 year for the use of the firearm.
Heidi was also sentenced to additional 30 months for tampering with evidence, and that all has to be served consecutively, so she will be in jail for a very long time.
When I heard that she'd been found guilty of murder, I was happy about it, but in the same time, sad. It just ruined a lot of lives. I'm glad she didn't get away with it.
It's been about 2 years, and I still look at how my life could have been if none of this would have happened. When Heidi murdered my dad,
November 14th, 1994. A date etched in acid. A date that would bleed into the history of Blackwood County for 30 agonizing years. The wind that night wasn't just wind, it was a warning. It howled through the skeletal branches of the pines bordering Route 9, carrying with it a chill that penetrated deeper than skin, settling into the very marrow of the town. Rain lashed the asphalt, unforgiving, relentless, washing away the sins of the day, or perhaps preparing the canvas for a new, darker masterpiece. In the quiet, sleeping heart of this suburban sanctuary, a nightmare was waking up. Community in shock. A sanctuary violated. These are the headlines that would scream from the newsstands the following morning, but in these midnight hours, there is only silence. The kind of heavy, suffocating silence that predates a catastrophe. Focus your eyes on the flickering streetlight outside the Miller residence. A typical two-story colonial. White siding. A manicured lawn that smelled of wet earth and decaying autumn leaves. Inside, the lights were off, save for the ghostly blue glow of a television set left on in the den. But something was wrong. The front door stood ajar. Just an inch. A sliver of darkness inviting the storm inside. A breach in the perimeter of safety. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't a random act of violence. This was personal. This was precise. At 3:17 a.m., the silence shattered. Not by a scream, but by the crackle of a radio dispatch. A patrol car, rolling slowly through the deluge, its headlights cutting through the sheets of rain like twin blades. Officer Jim Halloway was behind the wheel, coffee cold in the cup holder, eyes weary from a double shift. He saw the door. That single, terrifying inch of open space. The gut instinct of a veteran cop kicked in, a tightening in the chest, the sudden spike of adrenaline that tastes like copper in the back of the throat. He pulled the cruiser to the curb. The tires crunched on the wet gravel. He stepped out, the rain instantly soaking his uniform, his hand resting instinctively on the grip of his service weapon. He called it in. Dispatch, checking an unsecured door at 42 Elm. Possible break-in. Standard procedure. Routine. Until he pushed the door open. The smell hits you first. Before the eyes can adjust to the gloom, the nose registers the primal, metallic tang of violence. Iron. Rischt. The profound, undeniable scent of life ending. Halloway's flashlight beams sliced through the hallway, dancing over family photos, smiling faces frozen in time, oblivious to the horror that now shared their home. The beams swept the floor. And there it was. A trail. Dark. Viscous. Smearing the pristine oak floorboards, leading toward the kitchen. Halloway didn't call out. He knew. In that bone-chilling second, he knew there was no one left to answer. He followed the trail, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The kitchen. The heart of the home. Now a slaughterhouse. Lying near the kitchen island, amidst the shattered remains of a ceramic vase, was Elena Vance. 32 years old. A kindergarten teacher. The woman who taught the town's children how to read, how to share, how to be kind. She was sprawled in a posture of desperate flight, her hand outstretched as if reaching for a phone that was miles away. The brutality of the scene was overwhelming. Frenzied. Manic. A crime of passion so intense it scorched the air around it. Homicide. Officer needs assistance. Repeat, homicide. Halloway's voice cracked over the radio. The panic was real. The shock was raw. Within minutes, the calm of Blackwood was obliterated by the wail of sirens. Blue and red lights strobed against the wet siding of the houses, waking the neighbors, pulling them from their beds to their windows. Curtains twitched. Whispers began. What happened? Is it Elena? Where is her husband? The scene was chaotic. Uniformed officers tape off the perimeter. Flashbulbs pop, freezing the gruesome details in blinding white light. Evidence technicians in white Tyvek suits move like ghosts through the yard, marking footprints, bagging trace evidence, trying to impose order on absolute chaos. And then he arrived. The man who would become the face of the investigation. The man who would look into the cameras for 3 decades and vow justice. Detective Sergeant Arthur Thorne. Thorne was a legend in Blackwood. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that had seen too much and a jaw set like granite. He was the hero cop. The one you called when the world fell apart. He ducked under the yellow police tape, his trench coat billowing in the wind, a grim specter of authority. He didn't look like a man who had just lost a neighbor. He looked like a predator entering his hunting ground. He flashed his badge to the rookies, his face a mask of professional determination. "Clear the scene," Thorne barked, his voice cutting through the rain. "I want a perimeter established 3 blocks out. No one in, no one out. We catch this bastard tonight. Watch him closely. Watch how he moves. He doesn't flinch at the sight of the body. He doesn't recoil from the blood. He steps carefully, avoiding the evidence markers, his eyes scanning the room not with the confusion of an investigator, but with the critical appraisal of an artist reviewing his work. He crouches beside Elena's body. He touches his own forehead, a gesture that looks like grief to the watching officers, but feels like something else. A calculation, a moment of dark communion. "Who found her?" Thorne asks, standing up, his gaze locking onto Officer Holloway. "I did, Sarge. Door was open. Did you touch anything? Did you disturb the scene?" Thorne's interrogation is immediate, aggressive. He is taking control. He is seizing the narrative before the ink is even dry on the report. He is the alpha.
"No, Sarge.
Just checked for a pulse.
She was
already gone." Thorne nods, pulling a notepad from his pocket. The rain beats against the window pane, a rhythmic drumming that sounds like a countdown. "We need to find the husband," Thorne says, his voice dropping to a growl. "Where is Mark Vance?" "Mark Vance. Missing." The phrase ripples through the gathered officers. The husband is always the first suspect. It's the golden rule of homicide. If the wife is dead, find the husband. Mark Vance, a traveling insurance salesman, a man known for his quiet demeanor and perfectly pressed shirts. He wasn't in the house. His car was gone. The narrative began to form instantly, guided by Thorne's steady hand. The runaway husband. The domestic dispute turned deadly. The coward who fled into the night. But notice the details Thorne ignores. The lack of forced entry, not just at the front door, but anywhere. The fact that the alarm system was disarmed, not bypassed. The killer knew the code. The killer was welcomed. Or the killer had a key. Thorne moves to the kitchen counter. He sees a wine glass. 2 wine glasses. One broken on the floor, one standing on the counter, a lipstick stain on the rim. He pulls a handkerchief from his pocket, and for a split second, his hand hovers over the standing glass. Does he bag it? Does he mark it?
No.
He shifts his position, blocking the line of sight of the rookie photographer. He nudges the glass with his elbow. A clumsy accident. The glass shatters on the tile. "Damn it," Thorne mutters. "Slippery. Get this cleaned up and bag the shards." A mistake? A clumsy error in a high-pressure environment? Or the first brick in a wall of deception that would stand for 30 years? The evidence is compromised. The DNA on that rim, the saliva that would have pointed a laser beam at the truth, is now mixed with floor wax and dust, swept into a generic evidence bag, destined to be lost in the backlog of a bureaucratic labyrinth. The sun begins to rise over Blackwood, a gray, sickly dawn that offers no comfort. The news vans have arrived. Satellite dishes extend toward the sky like robotic flowers. Reporters in trench coats practice their solemn faces in rear-view mirrors. Tragedy in Blackwood. Teacher found slain. Manhunt underway. Thorne steps out of the house. He walks straight to the press line. The microphones are thrust into his face. He looks exhausted, haunted. He looks like a man carrying the weight of the world. "We are pursuing every lead," Thorne tells the cameras, his eyes staring directly into the lens, directly into the living rooms of the terrified community. This was a brutal, senseless act. Elena Vance was a pillar of this community. And I promise her family, I will not rest until the monster who did this is behind bars. The monster. He creates the character. He distances himself. He becomes the hunter, effectively hiding the fact that he is the prey. The community rallies. Vigils are planned. Candles are bought in bulk. People lock their doors for the first time in years. Fear is a contagion, and Thorne is patient zero, spreading it while pretending to offer the cure. He organizes the search parties. He directs the volunteers away from the riverbank, sending them toward the woods on the north side of town. The terrain is rough, he says. A fleeing suspect would go there. He is steering the ship. He is directing the gaze of an entire town away from the truth. But what about Mark Vance? The husband? 2 days later, his car is found, abandoned, parked near the state line. The keys are in the ignition. His wallet is on the passenger seat. But no Mark. The narrative solidifies. He ran. He panicked. He is guilty. Thorne stands by the car as it's being winched onto the tow truck. He shakes his head for the cameras. It looks like an admission of guilt, he says, off the record, but loud enough for the reporters to hear. Admission of guilt. The phrase sticks. It becomes the truth. Mark Vance is tried and convicted in the court of public opinion before a single gavel is banged. But let's go back to the autopsy room. The sterile, cold environment where the dead tell their tales. The coroner, Dr. Silas Reed, a man of facts and measurements, is examining Elena. He notes the defensive wounds. She fought. She fought hard. He notes the angle of the knife. Downward. Powerful. The attacker was tall.
Strong.
Right-handed. Dr. Reed finds something else. Under her fingernails. A scrap of skin. DNA. The holy grail of forensics. He bags it. He labels it. Sample B14. He writes the report. Foreign tissue found under victim's nails. Suggests struggle with assailant. He hands the report to the lead investigator. He hands the report to Detective Sergeant Arthur Thorne. Thorne takes the file. He thanks the doctor. He walks out to his car, sits in the driver's seat, and reads the findings. The rain is starting again, drumming on the roof. Thorne looks at the small plastic bag containing the sample. Sample B14. The only thing that can link him to the kitchen. The only thing that can shatter the mask. He doesn't destroy it. That would be too suspicious. Too risky if an audit ever happened. No, Thorne is smarter than that. He is a chess player. He opens the evidence locker at the station. He finds the box for the Vance case. He places the bag inside. But he mislabels it. He swaps the tag. Sample B14 becomes debris from floor. He buries it beneath photos of the crime scene. He hides it in plain sight, lost in a mountain of paperwork that he controls. The investigation churns on. Weeks turn into months. The leads dry up. Mark Vance is never found. The manhunt loses steam. The posters fade on the telephone poles. The candles at the vigil sites melt into wax puddles. Cold case. The words begin to whisper through the department. A file that no one opens anymore. Except Thorne. He keeps it on his desk. A constant reminder. A trophy. He looks at the file every day, drinking his coffee, accepting the condolences of his colleagues who tell him, "You did your best, Arthur. You can't catch them all." But he did catch him. He catches him every morning in the bathroom mirror. And the town moves on. But the scars remain. The children Elena taught grew up with a shadow over their childhoods. The house on Elm Street stood empty, a rotting monument to the unsolved mystery. The Vance house. Kids dared each other to run up and touch the porch. Ghost stories were invented, but the true ghost was flesh and blood, wearing a badge, patrolling the streets, waving to the neighbors. But secrets are like rot. You can paint over them, you can wall them off, but eventually the structure weakens. Eventually the smell comes back. Fast forward. 10 years. 20 years. 30 years. Technology advances. DNA profiling evolves from a blunt instrument into a microscope. Cold case units are formed, funded by new grants, eager to close the books on the haunting failures of the past. A new generation of detectives enters the force. Young, hungry, unburdened by the politics of the old guard. They don't look at Thorne with reverence. They look at him as a relic. Enter Detective Sarah Jenkins.
Bright.
Tenacious. She wasn't even born when Elena Vance died. She finds the file box in the basement archives. It's dusty. Forgotten. She blows off the layer of gray silt and opens the lid. She sees the photos. She sees the horror. And she sees the inconsistencies. The clumsy, broken wine glass. The missing husband who never used his credit cards, never called his family, never surfaced. It doesn't smell like a runaway to her. It smells like a disposal. She starts to read.
She starts to dig.
And for the first time in 3 decades, Arthur Thorne feels a different kind of chill. Not the wind on a stormy night, but the cold breath of the truth breathing down his neck. The hunter is about to become the hunted. The chessboard is being reset. And the first move is hers. The rain eventually stops, but the storm inside the Blackwood Police Department is just beginning. It is a hurricane of paper, ringing telephones, and the stale stench of cigarette smoke and cheap coffee. It is 1994, and the world is analog. No digital footprints to track in seconds. No cloud servers to hack. Every lead is a phone call. Every clue is a physical object that must be tagged, bagged, and filed. And sitting at the center of this paper storm, the eye of the hurricane, is Detective Sergeant Arthur Thorne. He stands before the corkboard. It dominates the war room. A sprawling map of chaos. He pins a photo of Elena Vance in the center. Her smiling face, taken from a school yearbook, beams out at a room full of grim men who have just seen what she looks like with the life drained out of her. Thorne steps back. He crosses his arms. The room falls silent. They are waiting for the sermon. They are waiting for the direction. "We have a 24-hour window," Thorne announces, his voice gravel and authority. "Statistically, if we don't catch him in the first 48, the odds drop by half. We are already 12 hours in. The clock is eating us alive." He is the conductor of an orchestra playing a symphony of lies. He points to the timeline he has drawn on the whiteboard. It is a masterpiece of fiction. He has established the time of death based on the broken watch found on the nightstand, a watch he smashed himself before leaving. 2:45 a.m. It gives him an alibi. At 2:45 a.m., Arthur Thorne was seen buying gas at a 24-hour station on the other side of town. He made sure to wave at the attendant. He made sure to buy a pack of gum, a receipt, a witness, a perfect, ironclad alibi for a crime that actually happened at 1:30 a.m. "Mark Vance," Thorne barks, circling the name in red marker. "We need to know everything. Who was he sleeping with?
Who did he owe money to?
I want his bank records. I want his phone logs. I want to know what brand of toothpaste he used." The team scatters. Energized. Directed. They are hunting a phantom, chasing a ghost that Thorne has conjured out of thin air. But there is a loose thread. There is always a loose thread. Mrs. Beatrice Gable, 74 years old, lives across the street from the Vances. She is the neighborhood watch, the eyes that never sleep. She sits in her front window with her knitting and her cats, observing the rhythm of Elm Street.
And on that night she saw something.
Officer Miller brings her in. She is frail, clutching a handbag, looking terrified by the bustling station. Thorne sees her. His heart skips a single, dangerous beat. Does she know? Did she see his car? His car is an unmarked sedan, indistinguishable from 100 others, but did she see him? He intercepts Miller. "I'll take this one, rookie. Mrs. Gable is an old friend of my mother's." It's a lie, but it's charming. It disarms the situation. He escorts her into interview room B. The room is small, soundproofed. Just a table and 2 chairs. He closes the door. The click of the latch is heavy. "Mrs. Gable," Thorne says, his voice dripping with gentle concern. He sits close to her, leaning in, the benevolent protector. "You're safe here. Tell me what you saw." "I saw a car, Arthur," she whispers, her hands trembling. "It was parked down the block. Around 1 a.m. I couldn't sleep because of the wind." Thorne nods, his face impassive. "A car. What kind of car?" "It was dark. Maybe black. Or dark blue. It looked like a police car, Arthur. It had that shape." The air in the room freezes. A police car. The truth is hovering right there, a moth fluttering around a flame. If she says this to anyone else, the questions begin. Why was a police car there 2 hours before the call? Thorne sighs. He reaches out and pats her hand. He looks at her with a mix of pity and patience. Beatrice, it was storming. The rain was coming down in sheets. Visibility was near zero. And Mark Vance drives a dark blue sedan. A Ford. It looks a lot like our cruisers in the dark. He plants the seed. He waters it with authority. Mark? She asks, confusion clouding her eyes. But I thought Mark was home. We believe Mark came home, Beatrice. Thorne lies smoothly. We believe he came home, did this terrible thing, and then left. That's probably the car you saw. Mark leaving the scene. He watches her process this. He watches her memory rewrite itself to fit the narrative of the man with the badge. The authority figure. He is telling her what she saw, and because she trusts the badge, she believes him. Oh, she says softly.
Oh my.
Poor Elena.
I guess
it must have been Mark. You're a hero, Beatrice, Thorne says, standing up. You just placed the suspect at the scene. You've done a great service to this town.
He walks her out.
He types the report himself. Witness states she saw the suspect's vehicle, a dark sedan matching the description of Mark Vance's Ford Taurus, departing the scene at approximately 1:15 a.m. He alters the time slightly to fit his timeline. He cements the lie into the official record. Mrs. Gable is no longer a threat. She is now a weapon against the husband. The days bleed into weeks. The town is gripping its collective breath. The funeral is held on a Tuesday. The sky is a bruised purple, heavy with unshed rain. The cemetery is packed. Hundreds of umbrellas form a black canopy over the open grave. Thorne is there. Of course he is there. He is in his dress uniform, white gloves, standing at attention near the family. He watches Elena's parents. The devastation on their faces is absolute. A mother weeping into a handkerchief, held up by a father who looks like he has aged 20 years in 20 days. Thorne feels a flicker of something in his chest. Is it guilt?
No.
It's too cold for guilt. It's a dull ache of necessity. He convinces himself of this. It had to happen. She threatened to expose the corruption. She threatened to go to internal affairs about the bribe money. She left me no choice. He justifies the monster by painting himself as the victim of circumstance. He approaches the parents after the service. The cameras are watching from a respectful distance, their telephoto lenses capturing the tender moment. Thorne takes the mother's hand. Mrs. Vance, he says, his voice thick with emotion. I swear to you, I will find Mark. I will drag him back here to face God and the law. Thank you, Arthur, she sobs. Thank you for being here. You were always good to them. The irony is acidic. It burns. He is comforting the people whose lives he destroyed, promising to hunt the man he framed. It is the ultimate power trip. It is the drug that keeps him going. He is God in this moment. He gives hope and he takes it away. But the pressure is mounting. The media is hungry. Where is Mark Vance? Why haven't you found him? The headlines are getting sharper. Thorne needs a distraction. He needs to feed the beast, so it stops looking at him. He manufactures a lead. He goes to the evidence locker late one night. He takes a credit card. Mark Vance's credit card, which he took from the wallet in the abandoned car before the tow truck arrived. He drives 2 towns over. A grimy truck stop. He finds a payphone. He wipes the card, handles it with gloves, and drops it near the receiver. The next day, a trucker finds it, turns it in. The news explodes. Mark Vance sighted in Jefferson County. Thorne organizes a raid. It is theatrical. It is loud. He gathers a SWAT team. They descend on a motel near where the card was found. They kick down doors. They drag terrified transients out of their rooms. The lights flash. The sirens wail. The helicopters chop the air overhead. It is a spectacle of force. Thorne stands in the parking lot, wearing a bulletproof vest, barking orders. Check the perimeter. He could be armed. Of course, Mark isn't there. Mark is dead. Mark is buried in a shallow grave deep in the woods of the state park, 5 miles in the opposite direction. Thorne put him there the same night he killed Elena. He intercepted Mark on his way home. A traffic stop. A routine check. Mark trusted him. Mark rolled down the window. Mark never saw the tire iron coming. But the raid serves its purpose. It shows the public that the police are working. It shows activity. It reinforces the narrative that Mark is alive, on the run, and dangerous. The failure to find him is blamed on Mark's cunning, not on the police's incompetence. Thorne praises the fugitive's skills to the press. He's desperate, Thorne tells the reporters, wiping sweat from his brow under the harsh TV lights. And a desperate man is capable of anything. We missed him by hours. But the net is tightening. The net is not tightening. The net is full of holes, and Thorne is holding the scissors. Back at the station, the psychological toll begins to manifest in the other officers. Officer Holloway, the man who found the body, is drinking too much. He sits at his desk, staring at the crime scene photos. He notices the wine glass. "Sarge," Holloway says one evening, the office nearly empty. Thorne looks up from his paperwork. His muscles tense. "Yeah, Jim? That wine glass," Holloway says, pointing to the photo. "The one that broke. You remember? You knocked it over."
Yeah.
"Clumsy. Why?" "I was looking at the photos the tech took before you got there. The angle is weird, but it looks like there was lipstick on it." Elena wasn't wearing lipstick. Her lips were pale. Thorne freezes. A microscopic detail. A shard of truth that slipped through. "Is that so?" Thorne stands up and walks over to Holloway's desk. He leans over, his shadow falling across the young officer. "Let me see." He looks at the grainy photo. It's hard to tell. It could be a shadow. It could be a reflection. But it could be lipstick. His mistress's lipstick. Elena wasn't alone before he arrived. She had a friend over. A woman. Someone he didn't know about. Panic flares, hot and bright. If there was a witness inside the house earlier, someone who drank wine with Elena, someone who left before the murder, they could come forward. They could say, "I was there at 10 p.m. Everything was fine." It would tighten the timeline. Thorne claps a hand on Holloway's shoulder. He squeezes. Hard. Just shy of painful. "Good eye, Jim." But that's not lipstick. That's a reflection of the red curtains in the kitchen. I checked it myself. Don't go chasing shadows, son. You'll burn out.
Stick to the facts.
Stick to Mark Vance. Holloway nods, cowed by the physical dominance, by the certainty in the veteran's voice.
Right.
"Sorry, Sarge.
Just
want to catch the sky." "We all do, Jim. We all do." Thorne walks back to his office. He closes the door. He leans against it, exhaling a long, shaky breath. He needs to find out who the friend was. He needs to find out who drank from that glass. He missed something. The perfectionist missed a detail. He pulls out Elena's phone records again. He scans the calls made that day. A number he doesn't recognize. A local call. 4 p.m. Duration. 20 minutes. He dials the number. He holds the receiver to his ear, his hand sweating. It rings.
Once. Twice.
"Hello." A woman's voice.
Young.
Thorne hangs up immediately. He stares at the phone. He has a loose end. A witness who hasn't come forward yet.
Why?
Is she scared? Does she know something? The game has changed. It is no longer just about hiding the past. It is about neutralizing the present. Thorne realizes that the investigation cannot just be a show. It has to be a suppression operation. He decides he will visit this number. He will visit this woman. Not as a cop, but as a predator cloaked in the law. The script of the cold case is being written day by day, and Thorne is the editor, cutting out the scenes that don't fit, burning the reels that show his face. But the audience, the town, the family, the rookies, they are watching. And eventually, someone is going to notice the continuity errors. But for now, the case grows cold. The winter sets in. The snow covers the grave of Elena Vance. The snow covers the shallow grave of Mark Vance. And the snow covers the tracks of Detective Arthur Thorne. The headlines shift to basketball scores and town council budgets. The shock fades into a dull ache. The cold case label is affixed to the file box. Thorne takes the file home. He puts it in his private study. He pours himself a scotch. He toasts the darkness. He has won the first round. But 30 years is a long time to hold your breath. Fade out. The sound of a ticking clock amplifies, becoming louder and louder until it sounds like a heartbeat. The number written on the notepad burns a hole in Arthur Thorne's peace of mind. 7 digits. A lifeline to the truth that he must sever before it pulls him under. It is a Tuesday morning, crisp and deceptively bright, the kind of sunlight that exposes dust in the corners of a room. Thorne sits in his unmarked sedan, parked down the street from a modest apartment complex on the edge of town. He isn't wearing his uniform today. He is wearing a soft sweater, slacks, a grandfatherly demeanor. He isn't here to arrest. He is here to bury. He watched the building for an hour. He knows she is home. Julie Baker, 26, a fellow teacher at the elementary school. The woman who spoke to Elena Vance 20 minutes before the end. He steps out of the car. The air smells of wood smoke and winter. He climbs the stairs to apartment 2B. He knocks. Not the pounding of the police, but the gentle rap of a neighbor. The door opens. Julie stands there, eyes red-rimmed, holding a tissue. She recognizes him instantly. The hero cop. The man on the news. Relief washes over her face, a reaction that twists in Thorne's gut. She thinks salvation has arrived. She doesn't see the wolf. Detective Thorne, she gasps. I was going to call you. I've been so scared. I know, Julie, Thorne says, his voice a warm blanket. I know. That's why I'm here. May I come in? She steps aside. The apartment is cluttered with grading papers and mugs of tea. It is the sanctuary of someone grieving. Thorne sits on the edge of the sofa. He declines the offer of water. He leans forward, elbows on knees, clasping his hands. We found your number on Elena's phone records, Julie. We need to know what you talked about. It could be critical to finding Mark. Julie swallows hard. She looks at her hands. She was happy, detective. That's the thing. She called me because she was excited.
She said.
She said she was finally going to end it with Mark. She said she had someone else. Someone who made her feel safe. Thorne's heart hammers against his ribs. Safe. The irony is suffocating. Did she say who? Thorne asks, his voice steady, betraying nothing. Did she give a name? No. Julie shakes her head. She just called him the protector. She said he was older.
Mature.
Someone with authority. She said he was coming over that night to help her pack Mark's things while Mark was out of town. To make sure she was safe. Thorne nods slowly. He remembers that night. He remembers coming over. He remembers the wine. He remembers the argument that wasn't about packing, but about her threatening to expose his corruption, the skimming from the drug busts, the evidence tampering he had done for a local kingpin to pay off his gambling debts. She wasn't leaving Mark for him. She was leaving him to save herself from his corruption. But Julie doesn't know that. Julie only knows the romanticized version Elena told her to cover the track of her affair. This is the pivot point. If Julie tells the press Elena was meeting a protector with authority, the eyes turn to the police force. The eyes turn to him. Thorne sighs, a long, weary sound. He looks at Julie with profound sadness. Julie, he begins, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I need you to listen to me very carefully. What I'm about to tell you is confidential. It could endanger the investigation if it gets out. She nods, eyes wide. She is captivated. Elena was delusional, Thorne lies. Smoothly, effortlessly. We found pills in the house. Antipsychotics. She was imagining a savior because she was so terrified of Mark. There was no other man, Julie. It was a coping mechanism. She created a fantasy to survive the abuse. He watches the doubt creep into her eyes. He presses the advantage. If you go to the press with this, if you tell people she was seeing a mystery man, do you know what will happen? Mark's lawyers will use it. They will paint Elena as an adulteress. They will say she was unstable. They will say a jealous lover killed her, not Mark. And Mark. He will walk free. He will get away with murder because you tried to help. It is a masterstroke of manipulation. He takes her truth and turns it into a weapon against her. He uses her loyalty to Elena to silence her. I didn't know, Julie whispers, tears spilling over. I don't want Mark to get away with it. Then we keep this between us, Thorne says, patting her hand. We protect her memory. We don't let them drag her name through the mud. You tell anyone who asks that she was scared of Mark. That's it. Can you do that for Elena? Yes, she sobs. Yes, I can. Thorne stands up. He has closed the loop. He has sealed the leak. You're a brave woman, Julie. We'll get him. He leaves the apartment. He walks back to his car. He doesn't look back. He has just committed a second murder, the murder of the truth. The years begin to blur. 1995 fades into 1996. The seasons change, the leaves fall, the snow melts, but the case of Elena Vance remains frozen in amber. The Vance house is eventually sold to a developer who tears it down. A new family moves in, oblivious to the blood that once soaked the floorboards beneath their new foundation. But the town remembers. The cold case becomes part of the local folklore, a cautionary tale told to teenagers. Thorne rises. His clearance rate is the highest in the department. He solves robberies, assaults, drug trafficking rings. He is relentless. He works 18-hour days. Is it penance? Or is it a way to ensure he is always the one holding the keys to the evidence room? He becomes Lieutenant Thorne, then Captain Thorne. He attends every memorial service for Elena. Every year, on November 14th, he stands by the grave. He bows his head. The press snaps photos of the devoted detective. He becomes the face of righteous indignation. We never forget, he tells the reporters. We never stop looking. But he has stopped looking. He stopped looking the moment he buried the file in the bottom drawer of his desk, beneath the takeout menus and the union handbooks. However, the world is changing around him. The 20th century bleeds into the 21st. The analog age dies. The digital age is born. Computers appear on desks. Typewriters are thrown into dumpsters. The ledger books are replaced by databases. DNA testing becomes cheaper, faster, more precise. Thorne watches this with a growing sense of unease. He sees the young officers, the tech generation, running names through national databases in seconds, something that used to take him weeks. He resists the change. He keeps his files on paper. Hard copies don't crash, he grumbles to his subordinates. He is seen as a charming Luddite, an old-school cop who trusts his gut more than a screen. But it's not charm. It's survival. A digital file can be shared. A digital file can be audited. A paper file in a locked drawer is safe. 10 years gone. A new prosecutor is elected. District Attorney Miles Sterling. Young, ambitious, looking to make a name for himself by clearing the backlog of unsolved homicides. He launches the Cold Case Initiative. He wants a review of every unsolved murder in the last 20 years. Thorne sits in the briefing room, his face a mask of stoic support, while his insides are churning acid. Sterling stands at the podium, projecting conviction. We owe it to the victims, Sterling declares. Science has caught up to the criminals. We are going to retest DNA. We are going to re-interview witnesses. No stone unturned. Thorne raises his hand. Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, resources are thin. The Vance case. We have a suspect. We know it was the husband. He's gone. Is it worth digging up old ghosts when we have active shooters on the street? Every ghost deserves a voice, Captain, Sterling counters. Especially Elena Vance. That case haunts this town. I want the physical evidence sent to the state lab. Prioritize it. Thorne nods. I'll handle the transfer personally. No need, Sterling says, smiling. I've assigned a task force. Detective Jenkins will be heading it up. She's eager. Detective Sarah Jenkins. The name lands like a punch. She is the one mentioned earlier, the bright, tenacious rookie who is now seasoned into a sharp investigator. She isn't part of Thorne's old boys club. She doesn't owe him favors. She respects him, But she doesn't fear him. Thorne walks back to his office. He closes the blinds.
He needs to act.
The sample B14, the skin from under Elena's fingernails, is still in the box, mislabeled as floor debris. If they test it, if they run it against the new national database, his DNA is on file. All officers have their DNA on file now for exclusion purposes. It's a standard procedure introduced 2 years ago. It will be a direct hit. He has to get into the evidence room. But procedures have tightened. Electronic key cards.
Logs.
Cameras. He can't just walk in and swap a bag anymore. The fortress he built to keep others out is now keeping him out. He waits until nightfall. He waits until the shift change. He uses his master override code, a code he shouldn't have kept, but did. He slips into the evidence archive. The hum of the ventilation system is the only sound. The aisles are long canyons of cardboard boxes, the tombs of the forgotten. He finds the Vance box. His hands are shaking. He hasn't shaken in years. He opens it. The smell of old paper and dust rises up. He digs through the envelopes. Photos. Reports. The broken watch. Where is the bag? He frantically tosses the contents onto the floor. The mislabeled bag. The debris. It's gone. Panic, cold and sharp, pierces his chest. He checks the log sheet attached to the side of the box. A signature in blue ink, dated that very morning. Checked out by Detective S. Jenkins. 0800 hours. Purpose: DNA reevaluation. She has it. She already has it. Thorne stands in the dim light of the evidence room. The box empty at his feet. The walls seem to be closing in. The hunter has been too slow. The prey has moved. He leaves the room, his mind racing. He can't destroy the evidence now. It's in the chain of custody. It's on its way to the lab, or perhaps already there. He has to change tactics. He can't stop the test. He has to control the result.
Or
he has to control the detective. He walks to Jenkins' desk. It is messy, covered in files. He sees her notebook. He flips it open. He sees her notes on the Vance case. Inconsistencies in timeline. Where is the mud? No mud found on carpet despite heavy rain. Killer removed shoes? Or was already inside? She is smart. She is seeing the things he hid. Where is the mud? A brilliant question. Mark Vance would have tracked mud in from the driveway. But Thorne was already inside. He had wiped his feet on the mad hours before the murder when he arrived as a guest. Thorne closes the notebook. He looks at the family photo on Jenkins' desk. Her husband. Her young daughter. A dark thought forms. A thought he pushes away, but not before it leaves a stain. He isn't a monster, he tells himself. He did what he had to do with Elena. He did what he had to do with Mark. He is a good cop who made a mistake. But how many mistakes can you bury before you become the villain? He decides to befriend her. He decides to mentor her. If he is close to her, he can steer her. He can suggest alternative theories. He can contaminate her thinking. The next morning, he brings her coffee. Heard you're taking on the Vance Mountain, he says, leaning against her cubicle wall, the picture of the supportive veteran. Jenkins looks up, surprised. Yes, Captain. It's a mess. The initial reports are, well, they're a bit thin. It was a different time, Sarah, Thorne says, his voice regretful. We didn't have the tech you kids have. We did our best. But hey, if you need a second pair of eyes. I lived it. I remember things that aren't in the files. That would be amazing, sir, she smiles. I could really use your insight. There are things that just don't add up. Like what? He asks, sipping his coffee, his eyes locking onto hers. Like the alarm system, she says. It wasn't forced. And Mark didn't have the code. Elena changed it 2 weeks prior. It's in her diary. She wrote down the new code. Only she knew it. Thorne grips the paper cup. He didn't know that. He didn't know she changed it. But he knew the code because she told him the code when he came over. She let him in. Maybe she didn't set it that night, Thorne suggests. No. Jenkins shakes her head. The log shows it was disarmed at 10:15 p.m. From the keypad. Someone punched it in. Maybe she let Mark in, Thorne counters. Maybe, Jenkins says, her eyes narrowing slightly. Or maybe she let someone else in. Someone she trusted. She is getting too close. The circle is tightening. Thorne smiles, a tight, forced stretching of lips. Well, keep digging, detective. Let the evidence lead you. I will, Captain. He walks away, the sound of her typing following him like the tapping of a judge's gavel. The cold case is heating up. The ice is cracking. And beneath the surface, the dark water is waiting to swallow him whole. Fade to black. Sound of a single drop of water hitting a surface. Echoing.
Loud.
Ominous. Voiceover continues. The sound of a heavy metal door sliding shut. The hum of fluorescent lights. Clinical. Cold. The envelope slides across the desk. It makes a dry, rasping sound, like a dead leaf being dragged over concrete. It is a standard-issue manila envelope, the kind used for parking tickets and interdepartmental memos, but to Captain Arthur Thorne, it looks like a death warrant. It sits there, innocuous and terrifying, between him and Detective Sarah Jenkins. The air in the office is thick, recycled, smelling of floor wax and the cheap cologne of the sergeant at the front desk. Outside, the world is moving on, traffic hums, pedestrians rush to lunch, but in this room, time has stopped. It has coiled itself around that envelope. The lab results are back, Jenkins says. Her voice is level, professional, but there is a tremor of excitement underneath. The thrill of the hunt. She is a bloodhound who has just caught a scent on the wind. They managed to extract a profile from the debris. It's degraded, Captain. It's 30 years old and was stored in a basement that flooded twice. But it's there. Thorne stares at the envelope. He doesn't reach for it. He can't. If he touches it, he feels his hands might burn. He leans back in his chair, forcing his shoulders to drop, forcing a mask of weary mentorship onto his face. And, does it match Mark Vance? Did we finally nail the bastard? That's the thing, Jenkins says, flipping the folder open. She points to a graph, a series of peaks and valleys that represent the genetic code of a killer. It's not Mark. We ran it against Mark's toothbrush, which his mother kept all these years. It's not a match. The DNA under Elena's fingernails. It belongs to someone else. The room spins. Just for a fraction of a second. The walls tilt. Thorne grips the armrests of his chair. Not Mark. The narrative he built for a decade, the fortress of lies he constructed brick by brick, has just been breached. If it's not Mark, then the jealous husband theory collapses. And if that collapses, the vacuum will suck in every other possibility until it finds the truth. Contamination, Thorne says. The word comes out too fast. He clears his throat, slows down. It has to be contamination, Sarah. You know how it was back then. We didn't have protocols. No Tyvek suits. No booties. Half the department walked through that kitchen before the techs even got there. Hell, the coroner probably wasn't wearing gloves. He is sowing doubt. He is trying to strangle the evidence in the crib. I thought about that. Jenkins nods, her eyes bright with intelligence. Too bright. That's why I want to run an exclusion panel. I want to take this profile and run it against the DNA of every officer who was on the scene that night. You, Holloway, the techs, the paramedics. We need to rule you all out. Once we scrub the friendly DNA, whatever is left, that's our killer. The silence that follows is deafening. An exclusion panel. It is standard procedure in 2004. It is the logical next step. And it is the one thing that will put Arthur Thorne in handcuffs before the sun sets. His DNA is on file. It was mandatory for his promotion to captain. If she runs that sample against the internal database, the computer will flag a match in less than an hour. The game will be over. Thorne stands up. He walks to the window. He looks out at the city he has protected for 30 years. He sees the reflection of a monster in the glass, superimposed over the streets. He needs to think. He needs to kill this idea without looking like he's killing it. It's expensive, Sarah, he says, turning back, his face a mask of budget-conscious bureaucracy. The department is bleeding money. The chief is already breathing down my neck about overtime, running 20 exclusion tests. For a cold case? He'll never sign off on it. I'll pay for it myself if I have to, Jenkins counters. She is relentless. She has the bit between her teeth. Captain, this is Elena Vance. This is the case. If we can prove it wasn't Mark, we rewrite history. We owe it to her family. She is using his own rhetoric against him. The hero cop persona he crafted is now trapping him. He can't say no without looking suspicious. He has to say yes, but he has to make sure the answer is useless. All right, Thorne says, forcing a smile that feels like it's tearing his skin. Write up the request. I'll push it through. But, Sarah, start with the most likely candidates. The first responders. The guys who were in the thick of it.
Holloway.
Start with Holloway. Holloway? Jenkins frowns. Why him? Jim was unstable back then. Thorne lies, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He was going through a divorce.
Drinking.
He was the first one through the door. If anyone contaminated that scene, if anyone dropped sweat or skin flakes on the body while checking for a pulse, it was Jim. Rule him out first. If it matches him, we know the sample is garbage and we save the department 10 grand. It is a desperate gambit, a delay tactic, but it buys him time. It buys him a night, and a night is all a predator needs. Jenkins nods slowly. Okay, I'll pull Holloway's file. I'll get a swab from him. He's retired now, right? Living out by the reservoir.
Yeah.
I'll go with you, Thorne says quickly. Jim trusts me. He's a recluse these days. If you show up with a kit, he might slam the door. Let me smooth the way. Thank you, Captain. She leaves the office. Thorne sinks back into his chair. He is sweating. A cold, clammy sweat that pricks at his hairline. He pulls a handkerchief from his pocket, the same handkerchief he used to wipe his brow the night he killed Elena, and dabs his forehead. He has deflected the immediate threat, but the missile is still in the air. He has to make Holloway the fall guy. Or, at least, muddy the waters enough to destroy the sample's credibility. Jim Holloway, the man who found the body. The man who looked at the wine glass and saw the truth, only to be bullied into silence. Thorne drives to the reservoir that evening. The sun is setting, casting long, blood-red shadows across the water. Holloway lives in a trailer, rusted and sagging, surrounded by tall weeds and the debris of a lonely life. Thorne knocks. The door creaks open. Holloway stands there, swaying slightly. He smells of cheap bourbon and stale cigarettes. He looks 20 years older than Thorne, though they are the same age. Guilt ages a man. Silence rots him from the inside. Arthur? Holloway squints. What are you doing here? We need to talk, Jim. Can I come in? The trailer is a tomb. Pizza boxes. Empty bottles. A television playing a game show with the volume muted. Thorne sits on a plastic chair. He looks at his old partner with a mix of pity and calculation. They reopen the Vance case, Jim, Thorne says softly. Holloway flinches. He pours himself another drink, his hand shaking so hard the bottle clinks against the glass.
Why?
It's over. Mark did it. Everyone knows Mark did it. New evidence, Thorne says. DNA. They found skin under her nails. They think it might be the killer's. Holloway laughs, a dry, hacking sound. Well, good. Find the bastard. Mark's dead, isn't he? Dig him up. It's not Mark, Jim. Holloway freezes. He turns slowly to face Thorne. His eyes, usually clouded with alcohol, are suddenly sharp. Terrified. Not Mark? Then who? Thorne leans forward. That's the problem. The DNA. It's degraded. But it matches a profile of a white male. About our age. Someone who was in the house. He lets the silence hang. He lets the implications seep into the cracks of Holloway's broken mind. You were the first one in, Jim. You checked her pulse. You touched her. I wore gloves, Holloway stammers. I think I wore gloves. Didn't I? It was raining, Jim. You were soaked. You were panicked. You radioed it in before you went to the trunk for your kit. Remember? You ran inside. Bare hands. Thorn is rewriting Holloway's memory. He is taking the chaos of that night and molding it into a weapon. Holloway's memory is Swiss cheese, eaten away by years of alcohol. He doesn't remember. He trusts Thorn. Thorn was the sergeant. Thorn was the clear head. Oh God, Holloway whispers. Oh God, Arthur. Did I mess it up? Is my DNA on her? It looks that way, Jim, Thorn lies. And here's the bad news. The new detective. She thinks it's not just contamination. She thinks maybe you knew her. Maybe you were there before the call.
What? No.
I never met her. Holloway stands up, knocking over his chair. You know that, Arthur. I was on patrol. I know, Jim. I know. Thorn soothes him, standing up and putting a hand on his shoulder. But the logbook. It's missing pages. The dispatch tapes from that night are corrupted. It looks bad. It looks like a cover-up. Thorn is the one who destroyed the logs. Thorn is the one who magnetized the tapes. But he lays the burden on Holloway's shoulders. What do I do? Holloway pleads. He is a child now, lost in the woods. We need to get ahead of this, Thorn says. She's coming tomorrow for a sample. Give it to her. If you refuse, you look guilty. But tonight, you need to clean this place up. Get rid of anything that looks incriminating. Incriminating? I don't have anything. You have your service revolver, don't you? Thorn asks. The one you bought after you retired?
Yeah.
In the drawer. Get rid of it, Thorn says darkly. If they search this place and find a weapon with your history, with the drinking, they'll paint you as a loose cannon, a violent drunk. They'll say you snapped. My gun. Holloway looks confused. But do it for me, Jim. Do it for the department. Throw it in the reservoir. Tonight. Don't let them find a gun in this house. Thorn knows exactly what he is doing. If Holloway throws the gun in the reservoir and Thorn tips off Jenkins to search the water, it looks like disposal of evidence. It looks like guilt. Holloway nods, tears streaming down his face. Okay, Arthur. You're right. You always look out for me. Always, Thorn says. He leaves the trailer. He sits in his car and watches. 10 minutes later, a shadow emerges from the trailer. Holloway walks to the edge of the water. He throws something heavy into the dark.
Splash.
The ripples spread out, touching the muddy banks, touching the lies. Thorn smiles. He pulls out his phone. He calls the station. He leaves an anonymous tip on the tip line. Voice disguised. Check the reservoir behind Holloway's place. He threw the weapon in. The Vance weapon. It is a masterful stroke of villainy. The gun Holloway threw in isn't the murder weapon. The murder weapon was a kitchen knife long since melted down in a foundry, but the act of throwing it away makes him look like a killer. Jenkins will find a gun. She will see a panicked ex-cop destroying evidence. She will focus all her energy on Holloway. The DNA result will come back as a match to Holloway, because Thorn will ensure the sample Jenkins takes tomorrow gets switched or contaminated with Holloway's coffee cup, which Thorn will swipe. Or better yet, Thorn realizes he doesn't need to switch the sample. If Holloway looks guilty enough, the partial DNA match to an unknown male will be assumed to be Holloway's. Just degrade it. The jury of public opinion will convict him. The next morning, the storm breaks. Jenkins storms into Thorn's office. We got a tip, she says, breathless. Holloway. Someone saw him tossing a gun into the reservoir last night. A gun. Thorn acts shocked. Why would he do that? Panic, Jenkins says. We're bringing in the dive team. Captain, if he killed her. If a cop killed her. Let's not jump to conclusions, Thorn says, grabbing his coat. But we have to follow the lead. Let's go. They stand on the bank of the reservoir. The dive team surfaces. A diver holds up a rusted revolver in a plastic bag. It drips muddy water. It looks ominous. It looks like murder. Jenkins stares at it. He tried to hide it. Why hide it if he's innocent? Maybe he's not innocent, Thorn says, his voice heavy with reluctant realization. Maybe we've been looking at the wrong man for 30 years. Maybe the monster was wearing a badge. He says the words, and they taste like ash. He is projecting his own sin onto a broken man. He is framing his friend to save his own skin. They arrest Holloway that afternoon. The footage is played on every news channel. The hero cop arrests the corrupt cop. Thorne leads Holloway out in handcuffs. Holloway is weeping, screaming that he's innocent, looking at Thorne with eyes that beg for the truth. Thorne looks straight ahead. He doesn't blink. He puts his hand on Holloway's head to guide him into the cruiser. "I'm sorry, Jem," he whispers, so only Holloway can hear. "It's the only way." The community is in shock again. The wound is ripped open. Police officer arrested in Vance cold case. The headlines scream, "The heat is off the unknown protector." The heat is off Thorne. The narrative has shifted. But in the chaos, a detail is missed. A small, insignificant detail. Back in the evidence room, Jenkins is logging the murder weapon found in the lake. She is thorough. She is meticulous. She runs the serial number of the gun. It comes back to a Smith & Wesson purchased in 1998, for years after Elena Vance was killed. Jenkins stares at the screen. Her heart stops. This gun couldn't have killed Elena. It didn't exist when she died. So, why did Holloway throw it away? Why did he act so guilty? Was he crazy? Or was he coerced? She thinks back to the conversation. Thorne suggested looking at Holloway. Thorne went to visit Holloway. Thorne was the one who pushed the contamination theory. She pulls up the log of the anonymous tip. The timestamp, 9:45 p.m. She pulls up the GPS data from the department's vehicle tracker, a new system installed in all command vehicles, including Thorne's, just last month. A system Thorne, the dinosaur, probably forgot about. At 9:45 p.m., Captain Thorne's car was parked on the service road, directly overlooking the reservoir. He was there. He watched Holloway throw the gun. He called it in. The realization hits her like a physical blow. It isn't Holloway. Holloway is the scapegoat, the puppet, and the man pulling the strings, the man sitting in the office next to hers, is the puppeteer. She prints the GPS log. Her hands are shaking. She isn't hunting a ghost anymore. She is hunting the captain, and she is trapped in the building with him. The paper is warm in Detective Jenkins' hands. It is a single sheet of standard office copy paper, but it weighs 1,000 pounds. It is the map of a betrayal. The GPS coordinates are precise, unfeeling, and damning. Latitude 41.2, longitude 73.9. Time, 21:45. Captain Thorne was there. He was watching. He was the architect of the fall of Jim Holloway. Sarah Jenkins looks up at the glass wall of her office. Across the bullpen, the blinds of the captain's office are drawn tight. A fortress. Inside, the man she idolized, the man who taught her how to hold a gun, how to interview a suspect, how to separate emotion from evidence. That man is a ghost. A phantom. A killer. She folds the paper.
Once. Twice.
She slides it into her boot against her ankle. She can't leave it on her desk. She can't file it. In this building, paper has a way of disappearing. Files have a way of burning. She is behind enemy lines, and the enemy has the master key. She needs to breathe. She needs to scream. But she does neither. She walks to the break room. She pours coffee. Her hand is steady. It is the steadiness of survival. She knows that if she shows fear, if she flinches, Thorne will smell it. He is a predator. He tracks movement. She returns to her desk. She pulls up the report on the gun again. The Smith & Wesson Model 10, manufactured 1998. For years after Elena's Vance bled out on her kitchen floor. Holloway didn't kill her with this gun. He couldn't have. So why did he throw it away? Because he was told to. Because he was scared. Because he thought he was protecting himself from a frame-up, not realizing he was walking right into one. Knock, knock. The voice makes her jump. Her heart slams against her ribs. She spins her chair. Captain Thorne is leaning against her doorframe. He is smiling. It is the same smile he wore at the department picnic last year. The same smile he wore when he handed her the Detective of the Month plaque. But now, she sees the edges. She sees the tension around the eyes. The shark-like stillness. You look like you've seen a ghost, Sarah, Thorne says, stepping into the room. He closes the door behind him. The click is soft, but final. Just tired, Captain, Jenkins lies. Her voice is dry. This Holloway thing. It's heavy. A cop. One of us. He wasn't one of us, Thorne corrects her, his voice dropping to a low rumble. Not for a long time. The bottle took him. He made a mistake, Sarah. He kept a trophy. That gun. It was his undoing. He is testing her. He is fishing. He wants to see if she bought the lie. Jenkins forces herself to look him in the eye. That's just it, Captain. The gun. I ran the trace on the serial number. Thorne's expression doesn't change, but the air pressure in the room drops. And it was made in '98, she says. 4 years after the murder. It can't be the weapon. Thorne pauses. A second. 2 seconds. He is processing. He is calculating.
He doesn't panic.
He nods, a look of disappointment washing over his face.
Damn.
I was afraid of that. Afraid? Jim was a mess, Thorne sighs, sitting on the edge of her desk, invading her personal space. He probably sold the original piece years ago for booze money. Bought a replacement later. But in his addled brain, in that drunk haze, he probably convinced himself this was the gun. Or he was just terrified of having any gun when we started sniffing around. It is a plausible spin. It is brilliant. He takes the discrepancy and turns it into proof of Holloway's instability. But why throw it away if it's not the murder weapon? Jenkins presses. Why act guilty? Because guilt isn't about facts, Sarah. It's about feeling, Thorne says softly. He feels guilty because he did it. The specific gun doesn't matter. The act of disposal. That's the confession. We have him on obstruction. We have him on tampering. The rest will come out in the interrogation. I'll break him. You're going to interrogate him? Who else? Thorne shrugs. I know his buttons. I know where the bodies are buried. Literally. He stands up. He pats her shoulder. His hand is heavy.
Warm.
Don't overthink it, detective. Sometimes the bad guy is just a sad, broken old man. Go home. Get some sleep. You've done good work. He leaves. Jenkins watches him walk away. She waits until he enters his office. She waits until his light goes off. She doesn't go home. She waits. The precinct empties out. The cleaning crew arrives, the hum of vacuum cleaners filling the hallways. Jenkins moves to the records room. She needs more. The GPS is good, the gun date is good, but it's circumstantial. Thorne can spin it. He can say he was at the reservoir checking on Holloway because he was worried. He can say Holloway is confused. She needs a link. A direct line between Arthur Thorne and Elena Vance before the murder. She digs into the traffic archives. 1994, the citation logs. They are dusty, bound in heavy leather binders. She starts in January. She scans the names. Thousands of tickets. Speeding.
Parking. DUI.
February.
March.
April. She finds it in May. May 12, 1994. 11:15 p.m. Vehicle. 1990 Honda Accord. Registered to Elena Vance. Officer ID. 442. Sergeant A. Thorne. Violation. Failure to signal. Action. Warning. A warning. At 11:15 p.m. On a deserted road near the old mill. Why was Elena Vance out that late? Why did the sergeant of the homicide division pull her over for a turn signal? And why no ticket? Jenkins pulls the daily log for that patrol car. There is a gap. From 11:15 p.m. to 12 a.m., Thorne's radio was silent. 45 minutes. A warning takes 5 minutes. What happened in those other 40 minutes? She writes it down. She takes a photo of the log with her own personal camera, not the department's. She keeps digging. She looks for financial records. It's harder in the pre-digital era, but there are internal affairs files. Complaints. She finds a file from 1993. A complaint filed by a local business owner. Extortion. The owner claimed Officer Thorne was demanding protection fees to keep patrol cars away from his bar. The complaint was unfounded. Dismissed by the chief. Thorne was protected. He was part of a system. But Elena was a teacher. She was the moral compass. If she found out, if she saw something. Suddenly, the lights in the records room flicker. Jenkins freezes. The hum of the vacuums has stopped. The building is silent. She hears footsteps.
Slow.
Deliberate. Leather soles on linoleum.
Click. Click. Click.
They're coming down the hall. Toward the archives. She looks at the clock. 2 a.m. Thorne said he was going home. But his car. She didn't check the lot. Was he still here? Was he watching her? She scrambles. She shoves the binders back onto the shelf. She kills the desk lamp. She ducks behind a row of tall metal shelving units. The shadows are deep here. She holds her breath. The door opens. A beam of light cuts through the darkness. It's a flashlight. Hello. It's Thorne's voice. Not the mentor. Not the captain. This is the voice of the man who stood in Elena Vance's kitchen. It is cold. It is devoid of humanity. I saw the light, Sarah. I know you're in here. She presses her hand over her mouth. Her heart is a drum in her ears. He knows. He tracked her keycard access. He saw that she swiped into the archives. You're obsessed, Thorne says, his voice echoing in the rows of files. He is walking slowly down the main aisle. The light sweeps left, then right. I told you to go home. Why didn't you go home?
He stops.
He is 10 feet away. You're looking for answers that don't exist, he continues. You're looking for a conspiracy. And you know what happens to good cops who chase conspiracies? They burn out. Or they get hurt. He is threatening her. Openly. Come out, Sarah. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Jim Halloway. Let's talk about loyalty. She spots the fire exit at the back of the room. It's 20 feet away. If she runs, the alarm will sound. The whole building will wake up. But if she stays, she calculates the distance. Thorne takes another step. He kicks a box on the floor. I'm trying to help you, he says, his voice dropping to a growl. You have a bright future. Don't throw it away for a dead woman who made bad choices. Bad choices. He is blaming the victim. He is justifying the kill. Jenkins makes a decision. She grabs a heavy binder from the shelf, 1988 felonies, and hurls it down the aisle to her left.
Crash.
The sound is explosive in the quiet room. Thorne spins, his flashlight beams swinging toward the noise. Who's there? Jenkins moves. She doesn't run. She glides. Shoes off. Socks on the tile. She sprints to the right, weaving through the stacks. She reaches the fire exit. She hits the push bar.
Clang.
The alarm screams. A piercing, electronic shriek that shatters the tension. Sarah? Thorne roars. He turns, seeing the open door. He runs. Jenkins is out in the alley. The cold night air hits her like a slap. It's raining again, just like that night in 1994. She doesn't stop. She runs to her car. She fumbles with her keys. She drops them. Damn it. She hears the rear door of the precinct burst open. Thorne is silhouetted in the doorway, the alarm strobing red light behind him. He has his gun drawn. Halt. Police. He is treating her like a suspect. She grabs her keys. She unlocks the door.
She dives in.
She cranks the engine. BLAM. A gunshot. The rear window of her car shatters. Glass rains down on the back seat. He fired. He actually fired. She slams the car into drive. Tires squeal on the wet pavement. She fishtails out of the alley, clipping a dumpster. She hits the main road. She floors it. She checks the rear-view mirror. No headlights yet. But he will be coming. He has the radio. He has the badge. He can call in an officer in distress. He can say she snapped. He can say she attacked him. He can turn the entire force against her. She is alone.
She drives.
Not home. Home is the first place they will look. Not to her parents. Too dangerous. She needs a safe harbor. She needs leverage. She thinks of the GPS log in her boot. She thinks of the logbook photo on her phone. Sergeant Thorne. Warning. 11:15 p.m. She needs to get this to someone who isn't owned by Thorne. The district attorney. Miles Sterling. The man who ordered the cold case review. But Sterling is a politician. Can she trust him? Or is he part of the same club? She drives toward the highway. She needs to get out of Blackwood. She needs to disappear for a few hours to think. Her phone rings. It's the station. She ignores it. It rings again. Private number. She answers. Hello. Sarah. It's Thorne. He sounds calm. Terrifyingly calm. You made a mistake. A big one. Running from a superior officer? Assaulting a captain? I can smooth this over, Sarah. Just come back. We can say it was stress. PTSD. Don't make me call this in as a fugitive hunt. You shot at me, she screams, her voice shaking. I fired a warning shot, Thorne lies. You were erratic. I was protecting the department. Come back, Sarah. Before it's too late. It's already too late, she says. I know about the warning, Arthur. May 12th. I know you knew her. I know you were there. Silence on the line. Heavy. Breathing. You don't know anything, Thorne whispers. But if you want to play this game, remember one thing. I wrote the rulebook. And I know where your daughter goes to school. The line goes dead. Jenkins slams on the brakes. The car skids to a halt on the shoulder of the highway. The rain hammers the roof. Her daughter, Emily, 6 years old, asleep at her mother's house. Thorne just crossed the final line. He threatened her child. Fear vanishes, replaced by a cold, hard rage. The same rage that Elena Vance must have felt in those final moments. But Jenkins is armed. Jenkins is trained. And Jenkins knows who the monster is. She turns the car around. She isn't running away. She is going to get her daughter. And then, she is going to war. The road is a blur of wet asphalt and streaking taillights. Sarah Jenkins is no longer a detective. She is a mother. The badge in her pocket feels like a piece of lead, a heavy reminder of the lies she has served for 10 years. The speedometer climbs, 80, 90, 95. She is hydroplaning on fear. Every pair of headlights in the rearview mirror looks like a shark's eyes. Every shadow looks like a squad car. She grabs her phone. Her hands are slick with sweat. She dials her mother's landline. It rings. And rings. Pick up, she screams at the dashboard. Mom, pick up. Hello. A sleepy voice.
Confused.
It's 2:30 a.m.
Mom.
Listen to me. Jenkins shouts, her voice cracking. Do not open the door. Do not turn on the lights. Wake Emily up. Get her shoes on. I'm 2 minutes away. Sarah? What's happening? Is it a fire? It's worse. Just do it. I'm coming in hot. Be ready at the back door. She hangs up. She throws the phone onto the passenger seat. It slides off, vanishing into the darkness of the footwell. It doesn't matter. She doesn't need a phone. She needs a miracle. Behind her, the city of Blackwood is waking up. Not the citizens, but the beast. The police radio on her dashboard, which she hasn't disconnected, crackles to life. It is the voice of God. It is the voice of Captain Arthur Thorne. All units. All units. Code 99. Officer in distress. Repeat. Code 99. The code freezes her blood. Code 99. Emergency. Immediate assistance required. It usually means a cop has been shot. Suspect is identified as Detective Sarah Jenkins. Thorne's voice continues, steady, authoritative, the voice of a man burdened by a terrible duty. She has suffered a psychotic break. She is armed and extremely dangerous. She has already discharged her weapon at a superior officer inside the precinct. Approach with extreme caution. Do not engage alone. contain and isolate. He is painting a masterpiece of deception. He isn't hunting a witness. He is neutralizing a mental patient. He is telling the rookies, the patrolmen, the friends she has coffee with, that she is crazy, that she is a threat. If they see her, they won't listen to her evidence. They will see a gun, they will see a fleeing suspect, and they will fire. He has turned her own brothers and sisters in blue into his personal execution squad. She tears around the corner onto Elm Street, the same street where Elena Vance died. The irony is bitter. She passes the empty lot where the house used to stand, a gap in the row of homes like a missing tooth. She doesn't look. She floors it toward the suburbs. She screeches into her mother's driveway. She kills the headlights. She leaves the engine running. She runs to the back door. It flies open. Her mother is standing there, holding Emily. Emily is wearing mismatched pajamas and her winter coat, her eyes wide with terror. "Sarah, you're bleeding," her mother gasps, seeing the cut on Jenkins' forehead from the shattered glass. "I'm fine," Jenkins says, grabbing Emily. She lifts her daughter. The weight is grounding. The smell of her shampoo, strawberry and innocence, cuts through the metallic scent of adrenaline. "Mom, you stay here. Lock the doors. If anyone comes, anyone, even the police, you tell them I was never here. You haven't seen me in days. Do you understand?" "But Sarah..." "Do not trust Thorne," Jenkins hisses. "He's the one doing this. He's the one who killed Elena." The accusation hangs in the cold night air. Her mother's face goes pale. The magnitude of the lie is too big to comprehend in a second, but the fear in her daughter's eyes is real enough. "Go," her mother whispers.
"Go."
Jenkins runs back to the car. She buckles Emily in. "Mommy, are we playing spy?" Emily asks, her voice trembling. "Yes, baby. The biggest game ever," Jenkins says, forcing a smile that hurts her face. "You have to be a mouse. Quiet as a mouse." She jumps in the driver's seat. As she shifts into reverse, she sees it. Blue lights. Turning the corner at the end of the block. A cruiser. Silent approach. No siren. They are hunting. "Get down," she commands. Emily ducks. Jenkins doesn't reverse. She slams the car into drive and jumps the curb. She drives across the front lawn, tearing up the grass, smashing through her mother's rose bushes. She hits the side street. She goes left. The cruiser goes right, toward the driveway. They missed her by seconds. But now they know she was here. The radio crackles again. Suspect vehicle spotted leaving 42 Oakhaven, heading west. Silver sedan. Rear window shattered. The hunt is on. She hits the highway. She keeps her lights off for the first mile, driving by moonlight and memory, risking a crash to stay invisible. She merges into traffic.
Trucks.
Late-night deliveries. She weaves between them, using their bulk as shields. She needs a plan. She can't drive forever. Thorne has the state troopers. He has the highway patrol. He will close the borders. She needs to go where he can't track her. She thinks of the GPS log, the reservoir,
the gun.
It's all circumstantial. She needs the smoking gun. She needs the motive. Why did he kill Elena? Corruption, the file said. Extortion. But that was 10 years ago. Was it just about money? Or was it something darker? Elena was a teacher. Thorne was a cop. Where did their worlds intersect? The school. Jenkins' mind races. Thorne ran the DARE program in the 90s. He was in the schools constantly, talking to kids. Drug abuse resistance education. It was the perfect cover for a predator to groom a community, to build trust. "Mommy, I need to pee," Emily whispers. Reality crashes back in. She isn't just a detective. She is a custodian of a life. She can't stop at a gas station. Cameras. Credit cards. They are tracking everything. She takes an exit. Route 9. The old industrial road. Abandoned factories. Rusting warehouses. It's the underbelly of Blackwood. A place where the police patrols are thin because even the cops don't like going there. She finds a motel. The Starlight Inn. The neon sign is broken. buzzing like a dying insect. SAR at I. It looks like a place where dreams go to die, but tonight, it is a sanctuary. She parks in the back, behind a dumpster. She pulls out her cash, emergency fund, she keeps in the glove box. $200. It has to be enough. She walks into the lobby. Bulletproof glass. A night clerk who looks like he hasn't slept since the Reagan administration. He doesn't look up from his magazine. Room, Jenkins says.
Cash.
One night. He slides a key across the counter. No ID requested. No questions asked. This is the economy of the invisible. Room 12 smells of mold and stale smoke. Jenkins locks the door. She chains it. She wedges a chair under the handle. She closes the curtains. Okay, she says, turning to her daughter. We're camping tonight. Just you and me. She puts Emily in the bed. She turns on the TV to a cartoon channel, keeping the volume low. Then she goes into the bathroom and vomits. The stress is a physical toxin. She splashes cold water on her face. She looks in the mirror. The cut on her forehead has stopped bleeding, but it looks angry. She looks like a fugitive. She sits on the floor of the bathroom with the GPS log and her notebook.
She needs to construct a case.
She needs to think like Thorne. Thorne is arrogant. He kept the trophy, the control over the case. He kept the file. He kept the secrets. But he made a mistake with Holloway. He underestimated Jenkins. Why did he pull Elena over that night in May? A warning. She pulls out her phone. She risks turning it on for just a minute. She accesses the public library archive app. She searches for newspapers from May 1994. May 10th, 1994. Drug bust at Blackwood High. Police seize 2 kilos of cocaine found in locker. Sergeant Arthur Thorne leads the raid. 2 days before he pulled Elena over. Elena was a kindergarten teacher, but she volunteered at the high school for the literacy program. She was there that week. Did she see something during the raid? Did she see Thorne planting evidence?
Or stealing it?
Jenkins remembers the rumor about Thorne's gambling debts. He was in deep with the mob in the city. He needed money fast. A drug bust. 2 kilos seized. How many were actually found? 3? 4? Did Thorne skim off the top to pay his debts? If Elena saw him moving the drugs, if she saw him taking a package out to his car, that's the leverage. That's the motive. It wasn't a crime of passion. It was an execution to cover a felony. But how to prove it? The drugs are gone. The money is spent.
Wait.
The protector. Julie Baker said Elena called him the protector. Someone with authority. If Thorne was extorting people, if he was running a racket, he wasn't doing it alone. You can't move kilos of cocaine without a network. You need a buyer. You need a middleman. The business owner who filed the complaint in '93. What was his name? She closes her eyes, visualizing the file she saw in the archives before Thorne started shooting. Donnelly. Frank Donnelly. Owner of the Blue Velvet Lounge. The Blue Velvet. It's still there. A dive bar on the south side. A place where cops drink for free and questions aren't asked. If Donnelly filed a complaint, he hated Thorne. But the complaint was unfounded. Thorne crushed him.
Or
Thorne turned him. Maybe Donnelly became the partner. Jenkins realizes she has to go there. She has to walk into the lion's den. But she can't take Emily. She looks at her daughter, asleep in the dingy bed, clutching a pillow. She can't leave her here alone. She needs help. She thinks of the one person Thorne hasn't corrupted. The one person who hates Thorne more than she does. The district attorney, Miles Sterling. But is he clean? He ordered the cold case review. He challenged Thorne. He seems legitimate. But in Blackwood, appearances are deceiving. She has to take the risk. She has to deliver the evidence to Sterling. But she can't go to his office. Thorne will have it staked out. She grabs the motel stationery. She writes a letter. She details everything. The GPS coordinates. The gun date discrepancy. The link to the drug bust. The theory about Donnelly. She puts the letter and the GPS log in an envelope. Emily, she whispers, shaking her daughter awake. We have to go. Again? Emily whines. I'm tired. I know, baby. I know. But we have to go see a friend. They leave the motel. It's 4 a.m., the darkest part of the night. Jenkins drives to the wealthy district. Large houses, manicured lawns. Miles Sterling lives here. She parks a block away. She carries Emily. They creep through the shadows. She reaches Sterling's house. It's a fortress. Cameras. Gates. She can't knock. If she knocks, he might call the police before she can speak. She needs to leave the package. She approaches the mailbox. She slides the envelope inside. But then, a light turns on in the house. The front porch light. Someone is awake. The front door opens. Miles Sterling steps out. He is wearing a robe. He looks anxious. He is holding a phone. He isn't calling the police. He is talking to someone. Jenkins creeps closer, hiding behind a hedge. She strains to hear. Arthur, you need to calm down, Sterling hisses into the phone. I can't just issue a warrant for her arrest without cause. Mental instability isn't enough for a shoot-to-kill order. Jenkins freezes. Sterling is talking to Thorne. She has nothing, Sterling continues. You clean the files, didn't you? Then let her run. She'll tire out. If you kill her, you make her a martyr. We don't need a martyr right before the election. The world drops out from under Jenkins' feet. Sterling isn't the savior. Sterling is the containment. He ordered the cold case review not to solve it but to control it, to make it look like they were trying while ensuring it went nowhere. He appointed Jenkins because he thought she was young, naive, and manageable. He thought she would follow Thorne's lead. He was wrong. Just find her, Arthur, Sterling says, rubbing his temples. Bring her in quietly. We'll say she had a breakdown. We'll commit her. But no more bodies. The press is already sniffing around. Sterling hangs up. He goes back inside. Jenkins is shaking. Not with fear, but with a terrifying clarity. There is no white knight.
There is no law.
There is only the system, and the system is designed to protect itself. Thorne is the muscle. Sterling is the shield. She is truly alone. She retreats to the car. She buckles Emily in. Her hands are steady now. The trembling is gone. Where are we going, Mommy? We're going to catch a bad guy, Which one? All of them. She starts the car. She isn't going to run anymore. If she runs, they win. They will hunt her down, commit her to an asylum, and she will disappear just like Elena Vance.
No.
She has to break the board. She has to make a move so loud, so destructive, that they can't cover it up. She turns the car toward the south side, toward the Blue Velvet, toward Frank Donnelly. If Thorne and Sterling are working together, Donnelly is the loose end. The man who was squeezed. The man who might still hold a grudge. Or a receipt. She drives into the dawn. The rain has stopped. The sky is a bruised purple, bleeding into gray. Behind her, the city lights flicker out. The nightmare is no longer in the shadows. It is out in the open. And Sarah Jenkins is driving straight into the heart of it, with a sleeping child in the back seat and a loaded gun in her lap. The Blue Velvet Lounge sits on the edge of the industrial district like a tumor that the city forgot to cut out. It is a place where daylight is the enemy, where the windows are painted black and the air inside is preserved from 1975, a cocktail of stale beer, despair, and secrets. Sarah Jenkins pulls her battered sedan into the alleyway behind the club. The brick walls are slick with moss and grease. She kills the engine. The silence that follows is heavy, broken only by the distant, rhythmic clanking of a factory coming online for the morning shift. She turns to the back seat. Emily is curled up, a small bundle of innocence in a world gone wrong. Jenkins covers her with a coat. She kisses her daughter's forehead, a silent promise, a silent apology. Stay down, she whispers to the sleeping child. Mommy will be right back. Count to 100. Slowly. She steps out. The air is cold, biting at her exposed skin. She checks her weapon. Safety off. One round in the chamber. She isn't a detective here. She is an intruder. She moves to the steel door at the rear of the club. It's locked, but she knows the trick. Every vice den has a weak point. She finds the loose brick near the jamb, the hide key used by the delivery drivers and the corrupt beat cops. It's there, rusted but functional. She slips inside. The smell hits her first. It's the smell of a life wasted. Sour mash and cleaning fluid. The club is empty, save for one man sitting at the far end of the bar, bathed in the sickly yellow glow of the security lights. He is wiping down the counter with a rag that looks like it's seen more spills than a hazardous waste team. Frank Donnelly. He looks older than the file photos. Much older. His skin is the color of parchment, translucent and thin. He has an oxygen tank next to his stool, the clear plastic tubes running up his nose like a lifeline. This is the man who tried to stand up to Arthur Thorne 10 years ago. This is what's left of him. Jenkins walks out of the shadows. Her footsteps on the sticky linoleum are loud. Gun drawn, held low. We're closed, Donnelly wheezes, not looking up. Come back at noon. Or never. Never is good. I'm not here for a drink, Frank, Jenkins says. Her voice is steady, echoing in the cavernous room. Donnelly stops wiping. He freezes.
He knows that tone.
It's the tone of the law. He looks up, squinting through the gloom. He sees the gun. He sees the badge hanging around her neck, a badge that now feels like a target. You look like him, Donnelly rasps. A dry, rattling laugh escapes his chest. You have the same eyes. The eyes of a hunter. Is he sending girls to do his dirty work now? Is Arthur too busy counting his blood money? I'm not with Thorne, Jenkins says, holstering her weapon to show good faith. She steps closer. I'm here to burn him down. And I need the match. Donnelly stares at her. He coughs, a deep, wet sound that rattles his frame. He reaches for a pack of cigarettes, ignoring the oxygen tank. He lights one with a trembling hand. Burn him down? You can't burn the devil, sweetheart. The devil likes the fire. He killed Elena Vance, Jenkins says. She drops the name like a bomb. The reaction is subtle, but it's there. A flinch. A tightening of the jaw. Donnelly takes a drag, exhaling a plume of blue smoke. Everyone knows Mark Vance killed his wife. Jealousy. Rage. Oldest story in the book. Mark Vance was framed. Thorne did it. And I think you know why. Jenkins pulls a stool out and sits across from him. I saw the complaint you filed in '93. Extortion. Thorne was squeezing you. He was using this place. For what, Frank? Was he moving drugs? Was he washing money? Donnelly looks at the burning tip of his cigarette. He stays silent. He is weighing his survival against his hate. He's hunting me, Frank. Jenkins presses, her voice urgent. He's hunting my daughter. I have nothing left to lose. If I go down, he wins. He keeps his badge. He keeps his pension. And he keeps getting away with it. Is that what you want? To die knowing he won? The old man looks up. His eyes are watery, but there is a spark of anger in them. The embers of a fire that was stamped out a decade ago. He used the kitchen, Donnelly whispers. The kitchen?
Here.
In the back. We had a delivery entrance. Private. Secure. Donnelly gestures with a cigarette. Thorne had a side business. High-end cocaine. Seized from raids, never logged. He needed a distribution point. I was in debt. He offered me a way out. Or a bullet. I took the way out. And Elena? She wasn't involved, Donnelly says, shaking his head.
She was.
Collateral damage. She was the bookkeeper for the Children's Literacy Fund. A charity. Thorne was on the board. He was using the charity to wash the cash. He was funneling the drug money through the donations, making it look clean. Elena. She was smart. Too smart. She noticed the discrepancies. Deposits that didn't match the fundraisers. Anonymous donors who didn't exist. The missing piece. The motive. It wasn't an affair. It was accounting. Elena Vance had stumbled onto a money laundering operation run by the police department's golden boy. She confronted him. Jenkins realizes aloud. She told him she was going to the IRS. She told him she was going to the FBI. Donnelly corrects her. She called him that night. November 14th. She said she had the ledger. She said she was done being quiet.
Thorne.
He didn't panic. He just went to work. The ledger, Jenkins says, leaning in. Where is it? Did he destroy it? Donnelly smiles. A grim, toothless expression. He thought he did. He burned the office. He burned the files. But Elena, she made a copy. She was scared. She came here 2 days before she died. Here? To a bar. She didn't know I was involved, Donnelly says sadly. She knew me from the neighborhood.
She trusted me.
She gave me a key to a locker at the bus station. She said, Frank, if anything happens to me, give this to the police. And you didn't, Jenkins accuses him. The anger flares hot in her chest. Give it to who? Donnelly snaps. Thorne was the police. If I handed that key over, I'd be dead before the sun came up. So I kept it. I kept it as insurance, in case Thorne ever decided I was a loose end.
Give it to me, Jenkins demands.
She holds out her hand. Donnelly looks at her hand. He looks at the door. He looks at his oxygen tank. He knows he is on borrowed time. The cancer is eating him faster than Thorne ever could. It's been 10 years, he wheezes. They clear those lockers out after 6 months if rent isn't paid. Did you pay it? Every month, Donnelly says.
Cash.
Under the name John Doe. It's my pension. My last act of defiance. He reaches into his shirt pocket. He pulls out a small brass key. It is tarnished. It looks insignificant, but it is the key to a coffin. He places it in Jenkins' palm. The metal is warm. Locker 402. Main terminal. It's in a hollowed-out book. The Great Gatsby. Jenkins closes her fingers around it. Thank you, Frank. Don't thank me, he says, turning back to his cleaning. Just kill the son of a bitch. And watch your back. Thorne has eyes everywhere. Suddenly, the phone behind the bar rings. It's a shrill, jarring sound in the empty club. Donnelly stares at it. He doesn't answer. It rings again. And again. He knows, Donnelly whispers. He knows you're here.
How?
The car, Donnelly says, looking at the security monitor under the counter. You parked in the alley. The camera. Thorne has a feed. He monitors all his old haunts. Jenkins looks at the grainy black and white screen. A police cruiser has just pulled into the mouth of the alley, blocking her exit. Blocking Emily. Panic, cold and absolute, seizes her. The back door, she shouts. No good, Donnelly says. They'll be coming in both ways. Go up. The roof. My daughter is in the car. Donnelly looks at the monitor. He sees the sedan. He sees the cop stepping out, approaching the vehicle with a flashlight.
Go, Donnelly says.
His voice changes. It becomes stronger. I'll buy you time. Frank, they'll kill you. I'm already dead, girl. Go. Donnelly reaches under the bar. He pulls out a shotgun. Sawed off. Illegal. Beautiful. He racks the slide. Chunk chunk. Jenkins hesitates. It is the hardest decision of her life. But if she gets caught, the evidence dies. If she gets caught, Emily goes into the system, into Thorne's hands. She has to trust the chaos. She runs for the stairs. Behind her, the front door of the club bursts open. Police. Hands where I can see them. Come get some, you dirty bastards. Donnelly roars.
Boom.
The shotgun blast deafens her. She scrambles up the metal stairs, her boots clanging. She hears return fire. Pop, pop, pop. Glass shattering. A man shouting. Then silence. She bursts onto the roof. The dawn is fully breaking now, painting the city in shades of gray and blood orange. The rain has stopped, leaving the tar paper slick. She runs to the edge, looking down into the alley. The cruiser is there. The officer is distracted by the gunfire inside. He has turned away from her car, his weapon drawn, moving toward the back door of the club. This is her chance. She doesn't think. She jumps. It's a 12-foot drop to the top of a dumpster. She lands hard. She rolls. Her ankle screams in protest, a sharp bolt of agony, but she ignores it. She slides off the dumpster and hits the pavement. She is behind the officer. He is focused on the door. She draws her weapon. "Drop it," she screams. The officer spins. It's a rookie. A kid. His eyes go wide. He sees a woman with blood on her face, holding a gun, looking like a demon. I said drop it. He drops his gun. It clatters on the wet concrete. Get on the ground. Face down. Hands behind your head. He complies, trembling. Don't shoot me.
Please.
Captain said you were crazy. The captain is a liar, she hisses. She kicks his gun under the dumpster. She runs to her car. She rips the door open. Emily is huddled on the floorboard, hands over her ears, sobbing. Mommy, I've got you, baby.
I've got you.
Jenkins jumps in. She throws the car into reverse. She floors it. The tires scream, catching traction. She shoots backward out of the alley, clipping the side mirror of the police cruiser, sending sparks flying. She spins the car around in the street and accelerates. As she speeds away, she looks in the rearview mirror. Smoke is pouring out of the front windows of the Blue Velvet Lounge. Frank Donnelly didn't just buy her time. He started a war. He set the place on fire. He is burning the evidence of his own complicity and taking the secrets of the past with him. Where are we going now? Emily asks, her voice small and fragile. Jenkins touches the brass key in her pocket. The key to locker 402. The key to the truth. To the bus station, M. We're going on a trip. But nothing is ever that simple. Her phone buzzes.
She grabs it.
A text message. From an unknown number. She glances at it. You have the key. I have your mother. A picture attaches itself to the message. It is a photo of her mother, tied to a chair in her own kitchen, a piece of duct tape over her mouth. Standing behind her, reflected in the kitchen window, is a tall figure holding a phone.
Thorne.
He isn't chasing her anymore. He is waiting for her. He anticipated the move. He knew she would go to the family. He knew she would run. The message continues. Bring the key to the old mill. Alone. You have 1 hour. Or the grandmother joins the teacher. Jenkins screams. A primal sound of rage and despair. She slams her hand against the steering wheel. He has checkmated her. If she goes to the bus station, her mother dies. If she goes to the mill, she dies and the evidence is lost forever. She looks at Emily. Emily is watching her, terrified. Mommy. Jenkins wipes her face. She forces herself to breathe.
In, out, in, out.
She can't give him the key. If she gives him the key, they all die. Thorne leaves no loose ends. He proved that with Elena. He proved that with Donnelly. She has to change the game. She has to do something he doesn't expect. She pulls into a 24-hour convenience store. She parks away from the cameras. Emily, listen to me, she says, turning to face her daughter. I need you to be the bravest girl in the world right now. I need you to do something very grown-up. She takes the brass key. She takes a piece of gum she had in the console. She chews it quickly, sticking the key to the bottom of the driver's seat. No, she thinks. Too obvious. She looks around. She sees Emily's teddy bear. Mr. Paws. Give me Mr. Paws, honey. She rips a small seam in the back of the bear. She slides the key inside, deep into the stuffing. She takes a safety pin from her blouse and closes the tear. Mr. Paws has a secret, Jenkins says. You must never, ever let him go. Do you understand? No matter what happens, you hold on to him. I will. Emily nods, clutching the bear. Jenkins drives. Not to the mill. Not yet. She drives to the fire station. Station 42. She knows the captain there. An old friend of her father's. A man who hates cops but loves the truth. She pulls up to the bay doors. She writes a note on the back of a napkin. If I don't come back by noon, give this bear to the FBI. Not the local police. The FBI. The key inside opens locker 402. It solves the Vance murder. She pins the note to Emily's coat. Emily, she says, her voice breaking. I have to go help Grandma. I can't take you. It's too dangerous. I need you to run into that fire station. You see that man washing the truck? His name is Captain Miller. You run to him. You give him the note. You stay with him. Do not leave with anyone else. Not even a policeman. Mommy, don't go. Emily cries, clinging to her arm. I have to, baby. I love you. I love you more than anything. She kisses her daughter. She unlocks the door. Run. Go now. Emily runs. She clutches the bear. She runs across the pavement. Jenkins watches until Captain Miller turns, sees the child, and drops his hose to catch her. He looks at the car. Jenkins nods once. Then she drives away. She is empty now. She is a weapon stripped of its safety. She has no evidence on her. She has no leverage. She has only her gun and her rage. She turns the car toward the old mill, the place where it all began, the place where she will end it. Coming for you, Arthur, she whispers to the empty car. I'm coming empty-handed, but I'm not coming to negotiate. Fade out. The sound of tires crunching on gravel. The wind howling through the broken windows of an abandoned factory. The stage is set for the final confrontation. The glow of the computer monitor in the squad room was the only light in a world that felt increasingly dark. It was 3 a.m. The coffee pot had burned down to a thick, acrid sludge, but Detective Thorne and his team were running on a fuel more potent than caffeine, the horrific momentum of discovery. They were hunting for a ghost, a woman who had vanished in 1999, a woman whose only tether to the world of the living was a faded Polaroid of a red scarf and the mumbled confession of a serial killer. Filter by year, 1999, Thorne commanded, leaning over the shoulder of the tech specialist, Miller. Filter by location, Southeast Texas, Southwest Louisiana. Keywords, hiker, traveler, scarf, red. The database of the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NAMUS, churned. It was a digital graveyard, a repository of the lost. The screen blinked, searching through thousands of entries, faces of people who had walked out the door and never walked back in. 0 hits 4 red scarf in the description, Miller said, rubbing his eyes. He might have taken it before anyone saw her with it. Let's widen it. Just missing female, 1999, Texas/Louisiana border, non-resident. The search ran again. This time, a list populated. 7 names. 7 women who had disappeared in that swampy, humid corridor between states. Thorne scanned the list. A runaway from Houston. A drug addict from Beaumont. And then, the 3rd name, Emily Vance. Age 22. Hometown, Columbus, Ohio. Last seen, October 14th, 1999. Vehicle found abandoned at a rest stop on I-10 near Vidor. Purpose of travel, cross-country road trip. Thorne pointed a finger at the screen. Open that file. The photo that loaded was heartbreakingly vibrant. Emily Vance was smiling, standing next to a packed Subaru, wearing a backpack and hiking boots. And around her neck, distinct against her gray fleece jacket, was a scarf. It wasn't just red, it was a patterned crimson, a distinctive weave. Thorne pulled the Polaroid from the evidence bag, the one from Mather's shoebox. He held it up to the screen. The pattern matched. It's her, Thorne whispered. Emily Vance. She wasn't a runaway. She wasn't lost. She stopped for gas or a rest, and she met Kenneth Mathers. The timeline was sickeningly perfect. October 1999. Sarah Jenkins had been murdered in August 1998. Mathers had waited 14 months. He had cooled off, let the heat die down in Vidor, and then, feeling the itch again, he had gone hunting. But this time, he hadn't targeted a neighbor. He hadn't targeted a teacher. He had targeted a ghost, someone passing through, someone whose disappearance wouldn't trigger a local manhunt. He had learned from his first kill. He had evolved. Get the coordinates for the dam, Thorne ordered. We're going back out. The interrogation room felt colder than usual when Thorne returned. Mathers was asleep, his head resting on his arms on the metal table. He looked peaceful, a disturbing contrast to the chaos he had unleashed. Thorne slammed the file on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Mathers jerked awake, blinking, disoriented. Emily Vance, Thorne said, not waiting for him to focus. She was 22. She was going to California. She stopped to stretch her legs. Is that the hiker, Kenneth? Is that the girl you helped? Mathers stared at the picture of Emily. A flicker of recognition passed behind his eyes, followed by a dull resignation. She had a map, he mumbled, his voice thick with sleep. She was looking for a trail. I told her I knew a better one. Down by the water, where it's quiet. And you took her to the dam, Thorne pressed. Steinhagen Reservoir. The north side. Mathers nodded slowly. The old access road. It's gated off now. But back then you could drive right up to the water. Where is she, Kenneth? Thorne asked, his voice low and dangerous. Is she in the water? Did you weigh her down? No, Mathers whispered. The ground is soft there.
Marshy.
I didn't have a shovel. I covered her. With branches.
With logs.
I took the scarf.
I don't know why.
It just looked bright. Bright. Thorne repeated, disgusted. You took it because you wanted a piece of her light. But you extinguished it, Kenneth. You snuffed her out. The convoy to the Steinhagen Reservoir moved in silence. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. The reservoir was a desolate, beautiful place, stagnant water reflecting the cypress trees, Spanish moss hanging like shrouds. It was a place where things could disappear easily. The alligators, the mud, the rot. Nature here was an accomplice to decomposition. They parked at the rusted gate of the old access road. The team unloaded the gear, machetes, probes, sifting screens. The cadaver dogs, 2 bloodhounds named Buster and Blue, were already straining at their leashes, their noses twitching, reading the air for the scent of death that lingers for decades. The soil here is acidic, the forensic anthropologist warned Thorne as they suited up. Bones might be degraded. We might be looking for fragments, not a skeleton. Just find her, Thorne said. Find anything. They walked for a mile into the thicket. The heat rose with the sun, bringing the insects.
The air buzzed.
The ground squelched under their boots. It was a miserable, hostile environment. Mathers had chosen well. No casual hiker would come back here. The dogs stopped near a cluster of fallen cypress trees, their roots exposed like tangled snakes. They began to circle, whining, pawing at the black, muck-covered earth. Here, the handler shouted. We have interest. The team moved in. They cleared the brush carefully. They began to peel back the layers of the forest floor, decades of fallen leaves, silt from floods, the detritus of storms. It was archaeology of the macabre. An hour passed. Then 2. Thorne paced the perimeter, swatting at mosquitoes, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm. Please let there be something left. Don't let the swamp have taken it all. Detective. It was Miller. He was on his knees in the mud, holding a trowel. He wasn't pointing at a bone. He was pointing at something synthetic. Something that doesn't rot. Thorne knelt beside him. Embedded in the root ball of a massive oak tree, half consumed by the bark growing around it, was a strap. A nylon webbing strap.
Blue.
It's a backpack, Miller whispered. The tree grew around it. They carefully excavated around the roots. They cut the wood. They pulled the object free. It was a disintegrated Jansport backpack. The fabric was mostly gone, eaten by microbes, but the zippers, the buckles, and the synthetic straps remained. And inside, protected by the nylon, were the things that defined a life in 1999. A Walkman, a plastic water bottle, a laminated map of the United States. And underneath the bag, pressed into the clay, were the bones. They were scattered, fragmented by time and scavengers, but they were human. A femur, a piece of a skull, a jawbone with teeth that would match the dental records of a girl from Columbus, Ohio. Thorne stood up, holding the muddy Walkman in his gloved hand. He looked out at the water. Emily Vance had come here looking for adventure. She had found a monster in a blue truck. For 25 years, her parents had probably wondered if she had run off to start a commune, if she had joined a cult, if she had simply chosen to forget them. They had lived in the torture of the unknown. Bag it all, Thorne said, his voice cracking. Every fragment. Every zipper. She's coming home. The drive back to the station was somber. The scale of Mather's crimes was settling in. Sarah Jenkins was a crime of obsession. Julie Miller was a crime of opportunity and lust. Emily Vance was a crime of pure predation, a test of his ability to kill a stranger and get away with it. And he had passed the test. For 25 years, he had passed. Back at the station, Thorne made the call to Ohio. He spoke to an elderly man, Emily's father. The conversation was brief, brutal, and necessary. He heard the man weep, a sound that transcended the phone line, a sound of old grief finally finding a place to land. We thought, the man choked out. We thought maybe she was happy somewhere. But thank you. Thank you for finding her. Thorne hung up. He looked at the cold case board. 3 faces now. Sarah, Julie, Emily. The triangle of death was complete. But the shoebox still had 38 photos left. He walked back to the interrogation room. Mathers was awake now, sitting up, looking almost expectant. He knew the routine. He knew they had found her. We found the backpack, Kenneth, Thorne said. And we found Emily. Her father says thank you. Can you believe that? He thanked me for telling him his daughter was murdered by a coward in the woods. Mathers flinched. I ain't a coward. You are the definition of a coward, Thorne said, leaning in. You prey on the weak. You prey on the trusting. You prey on girls who stop to ask for directions. Thorne paced the small room. But here's the thing, Kenneth. You didn't stop in 1999. And you didn't stop in 2004. There are gaps. Big gaps. 2000 to 2003. 2005 to 2010. What were you doing? Just taking pictures? Just watching windows. He pulled out another photo from the stack. This one was different. It wasn't a house and it wasn't a landscape. It was a picture of a crowded place. A fairground. A blurry image of a Ferris wheel at night, the lights streaking. Photo number 12, Thorne said. The county fair. 2008. Why take a picture of a Ferris wheel, Kenneth? You don't like rides. You don't like crowds. Mathers looked at the photo. His eyes darted to the side. It's just a picture. I went to the fair. Everyone goes to the fair.
We zoomed in, Thorne lied.
He hadn't yet, but he trusted his gut. We digitized it and we zoomed in. There's a girl in the bottom corner. Blonde hair. Pink cotton candy. She's looking at the camera. She's not smiling. She looks uncomfortable. Mathers went still. The scenery defense was crumbling. The hiker defense was gone. Now they were in the territory of the crowd. The hunting ground where he could hide in plain sight. Her name was Lisa, Mathers whispered, almost involuntarily. She worked the ticket booth. She had a laugh like broken glass. Thorne felt the floor drop out from under him again. Lisa Morales. A missing person case from 2008. She hadn't vanished from the fair. She had vanished walking home from her shift. The police had suspected a boyfriend. They had suspected a drug dealer. They had never suspected the quiet man who delivered appliances and drove a white Chevy. Lisa Morales, Thorne said, the name tasting like ash. She never made it home, Kenneth.
Did you offer her a ride, too?
Or did you just grab her? I waited, Mathers said, a tear sliding down his nose. I waited by the back gate, where the workers leave. It was raining. I had an umbrella. I just wanted to share my umbrella. Thorne stared at him. The banality of the evil was suffocating. An umbrella, a map, a washing machine. The tools of his trade were the everyday objects of helpfulness. He weaponized kindness. Where is Lisa? Thorne asked, his voice a whisper. She's not in the woods, Mathers said, his voice trembling.
She's
closer. She's under the porch. Which porch? My porch, Mather sobbed. The trailer. I put her under the trailer. I wanted to keep her close. Thorne recoiled. He physically took a step back. The officers in the observation room gasped. For weeks, they had been watching that trailer. They had walked on that porch. They had stood inches above the remains of a woman who had been missing for 15 years. Get the team to the trailer park, Thorne ordered into his radio, his voice shaking with rage. Tear up the porch. Tear up the whole damn thing. The realization hit Thorne with the force of a physical blow. Kenneth Mathers wasn't just a serial killer who dumped bodies in the wild. He was a collector. He kept trophies in a box, and he kept victims in the earth beneath his feet. The pizza crust had led them to a monster, but they were only now realizing that the monster had been living on top of a graveyard. As the sun fully rose over Vidor, the yellow tape around the blue trailer was expanded. They weren't just searching a home anymore. They were excavating a tomb. And as the first plank of the porch was pried loose with a screech of nails, the neighbors watched in horror, realizing that the quiet man who grew tomatoes had been gardening over the dead. The blue trailer at the end of the gravel road had always been an eyesore, a rusted relic of a forgotten decade, but as the sun reached its zenith over Vidor, it became the most terrifying structure in Texas. The safe perimeter was pushed back 300 yards. The neighbors were evacuated, their faces pale as they stood behind the secondary barricades, watching the forensic team in white Tyvek suits approach the porch with chainsaws and crowbars. The air was thick with the scent of pine needles, exhaust, and the underlying, metallic hum of a community in shock. Detective Thorne stood on the perimeter, his eyes fixed on the gap beneath the trailer. He thought of the weeks his men had spent surveilling the spot. They had sat in their vans, eating sandwiches, watching Kenneth Mathers sip coffee on this very porch. They had stood on the boards that were currently being pried up, their boots inches away from the secret Mathers had guarded for 15 years. The thought was a physical sickness in his gut. The first board came up with a jagged, splintering scream. Then the second. Then the third. The crawl space was dark, a shallow void of dry dirt and spiderwebs. The lead forensic tech, a man who had seen everything the human race could do to itself, crawled inside with a high-intensity flashlight. The beam cut through the gloom, reflecting off the underside of the chassis. For a long minute, there was only the sound of his heavy breathing over the radio. I have a depression in the soil, the voice crackled. Northwest corner, near the main support. The dirt here is loose. And there's a smell. Thorne didn't need to hear more. He knew that smell. It was the scent of a secret that refused to stay buried. As the techs began to excavate with small hand shovels and brushes, the pizza crust killer sat in the interrogation room, 40 miles away, staring at the ceiling. He was eerily calm now. The confession about the porch seemed to have unburdened him, or perhaps he was simply enjoying the final act of his own drama. He was the center of the world. For 30 years, he had been a shadow. Now, he was a sun, and everyone was forced to look at him. Why the porch, Kenneth? Thorne asked, his voice coming from the doorway. He had returned to the station, unable to watch the slow-motion tragedy at the trailer any longer. Why Lisa? Why did you bring her home? Mathers didn't look at him. He smiled, a small private thing. She was beautiful. I didn't want her to be alone in the woods. I wanted to hear her laugh again. Sometimes at night, when it was real quiet, I could hear it, right through the floorboards. Thorne felt the hair on his arms stand up. The sheer, calculated insanity of it was staggering. Mathers hadn't just murdered these women. He had attempted to own them, to integrate them into his domestic life. Back at the trailer, the excavation reached the 30-inch mark. The depression in the soil revealed a shape. Not a bone, at first. A plastic sheet. A heavy-duty, black contractor bag. It was folded over, caked in red Texas clay. The team worked with the precision of surgeons. They cleared the dirt from the plastic. They didn't open it there. They prepared to lift the entire mass, encased in the surrounding soil, to keep the context intact. But as they moved the bag, a corner tore. Something fell out. It wasn't a bone.
It was a keychain.
A small, plastic glitter-filled L, attached to a ring of keys. L for Lisa, Thorne whispered when the photo of the find reached his phone. But the excavation didn't stop at one bag. As they cleared the northwest corner, the ground to the right shifted. The ground to the left felt hollow. The forensic lead signaled for silence. He took a metal probe and pushed it into the soil 3 feet away from the first site.
Clack.
It hit something hard. Not a rock. The sound was too dull, too resonant. He moved 2 feet further.
Clack.
Detective, the radio screamed, the technician's voice cracking with horror. We have multiple hits. This isn't just one site. The entire area under the trailer. It's a grid. Thorne gripped the edge of the table in the station. A grid? How many, Miller? How many are you seeing? I don't know yet.
4, 5.
Maybe more. It's like he was filing them away. He didn't just put her under the porch. He built a cemetery beneath his house. The news hit the bullpen like a physical shock. The pizza crust headline was dead. The serial killer headline was an understatement. This was something unprecedented in the history of East Texas. A man who had lived for decades on top of a secret graveyard, sleeping, eating, and watching television while the women he had stolen lay in the dark beneath his feet. The identification team went into overdrive. They stopped looking for windows. They started looking for families. They pulled every missing person report from a 50-mile radius, 1990 to 2015. They looked for the unsolvables. The girls who vanished from bus stops. The women who never came home from the late shift. The mothers who went out for milk and never returned. By sunset, the count under the trailer was confirmed. 6. 6 black contractor bags. 6 lives reduced to silhouettes in the dirt. The horror in Vidor was no longer localized. It was a national emergency. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit arrived by helicopter, their dark suits a stark contrast to the dusty roads of the trailer park. They sat with Thorne, looking at the shoebox of photos. He's a collector of moments, the lead profiler said, tapping the photo of the Ferris wheel. The photos were the scouting. The killings were the acquisition.
And the porch.
The porch was the gallery. He kept them there so he could control the narrative of his own life. In his mind, he wasn't a lonely delivery man. He was a master of a hidden kingdom. Thorne walked back into the interrogation room one last time. He didn't bring a file. He didn't bring a photo. He brought a sense of finality. 6, Kenneth, Thorne said. The room was dark, save for the single lamp over the table. We found 6 under the porch. Lisa was just the beginning, wasn't she? Mathers looked up. For the first time, the calm was gone. He looked old. He looked brittle. The discovery of his gallery had stripped him of his power. I tried to be good, Mathers whispered, his voice trembling. I really did. I'd go years. Years just watching the windows. Just taking the pictures. But then the light in a window would be just right. And I'd feel it. That cold feeling in my chest. Like I was disappearing. And the only way to feel real again was to take that light for myself. You didn't take their light, Kenneth, Thorne said, leaning in so close he could smell the stale coffee on Mather's breath. You became the darkness. And now, the darkness is coming for you. Thorne stood up and walked toward the door. Wait, Mathers called out. He was reaching out with his shackled hands, the chains clinking against the metal table. What about the others? The ones in the woods? Thorne paused at the door, his hand on the knob. He looked back at the man who had turned his world into a graveyard. We're going to find them all, Kenneth. Every single one. We're going to empty your shoebox. We're going to dig up every well, every riverbank, and every porch you ever stepped on. You thought you were keeping them forever, but you were just holding them until we got here. Thorne exited the room and shut the door. The sound of the lock clicking into place was the final note in the story of the shadow that had haunted Vidor. The blue trailer is gone now. It was hauled away in sections, not as a home, but as a piece of forensic evidence, leaving behind nothing but a rectangular scar of dead grass and a series of hollowed-out trenches in the red Texas clay. The silence that has settled over this corner of Vidor is no longer the quiet of a sleepy suburb. It is the heavy, suffocating silence of a battlefield after the smoke has cleared. The hidden kingdom of Kenneth Mathers has been dismantled, his gallery of ghosts evicted, and the secrets he whispered to the floorboards have been broadcast to a world that can't quite believe what it's hearing. For Detective Thorne, the finality of the case brought no peace, only a different kind of exhaustion. He stands on the edge of the empty lot, the evening sun casting long, skeletal shadows across the excavated earth. The total count was 9. 9 confirmed lives stolen. Sarah, Julie, Emily, Lisa, and 5 others whose names are only now being reclaimed from the darkness. The shoebox of 43 photos remains on his desk, a haunting reminder that while 9 are home, 34 windows still represent lives that were touched by a monster. Were they lucky? Or are there more wells, more porches, more secrets yet to be unearthed? The community of Vidor is forever changed. The Pizza Crust Killer is a name that will be used in hushed tones for generations, a cautionary tale that turned neighbors into strangers and windows into threats. The innocence that died with Sarah Jenkins in 1998 wasn't just hers, it was the town's. People here now check their locks twice, not because they're forgetful, but because they remember. They remember the quiet man with the tomatoes. They remember the blue truck. They remember that for 30 years, the shadow on the porch wasn't a trick of the light. It was a predator waiting for the scream to stop. Kenneth Mathers sits in a cell in Huntsville, awaiting the inevitable end that the state of Texas provides for those who break its soul. He is no longer a son. He is a fading ember, a pathetic old man stripped of his trophies and his power. He will die in the dark, and eventually, his name will be forgotten. But the names of the 9, Sarah, Julie, Emily, Lisa, and the rest, will be etched in stone, remembered by the families who finally have a place to lay flowers, a place to weep, and a place to find a jagged, painful kind of closure. The camera pans slowly from the empty lot up to the evening sky, where the first stars are beginning to pierce the purple twilight. Justice, in the end, didn't come with a flourish or a grand, heroic gesture. It came in a plastic bag from a pizza parlor. It came through the tireless sifting of dirt and the patient decoding of DNA. It came because a few dedicated souls refused to let the fire of a cold case go out. The night is still dark, and the pine forests of East Texas still hold their mysteries, but one less shadow is walking the streets. The windows of Vidor are lit tonight, and for the first time in a quarter-century, the people behind them are truly breathing. The file is closed. The ghosts are home. And the truth, cold and hard as a Texas winter, finally stands alone.